Good evening, everybody. We're going to start this meeting at 7:01. Can I get a roll call, please?
Yes. Merry Christmas.
And Katie Newton,
Here.
Mark Sherwood,
Yes.
Donna Manthorn,
Here.
Kim McCormick,
Here.
Alyssa Kowalczyk,
Here.
and Paula Kane and Bree Woodworth.
They're both excused. All right, if everyone can stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right. Student, staff, and family share.
All right, I would like to introduce Mr. Jim Kelly. Just to give a brief kind of preview, we're going to hear from a couple of high school students tonight. Mr. Kelly is a teacher over at the high school. This board was invited, as the public was, and the budget committee to the New Hampshire Funding Fairness Project for a presentation. That group also visited with this high school class. They were led through an inquiry project that allows students to think about public school funding here in the state of New Hampshire. And we've got those students here tonight to share some of the things that they've learned and maybe challenge the board a little bit to think about school funding. Mr. Kelly.
I'm going to let the students do the talking. They did the whole presentation, so whenever you guys are ready, you guys can address the board.
Come on up.
Here you go, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, can we rush this short?
Sit with me.
Oh, yeah, I was very good used to it. Oh, I can do that. I'll go sit
They got
down.
it. They got it. Good evening, guys.
We're Mr. Kelly's AP Gov class. Well, 5 of the people. I think there's 13? 19. Wow. I was wrong. Good try. We're all seniors in that class. My name is Gracie Griffiths.
I'm Ellie Hammer.
I'm Nathan Belmont.
I'm Sebastian Shell.
I'm Lizzie Lombard.
Okay, so we engaged in a 2-step school funding simulation in our class. We looked at the financial constraints of 2 different schools in different New Hampshire communities, and we discussed how to allocate resources to best serve the students. One of the schools was adequately funded and one was not. And we discussed how New Hampshire's current school funding impacts education. We connected the simulation to our own personal experiences in high school and outside of it once we graduated. We learned about the requirements for funding an adequate education in the New Hampshire Constitution and how we can address inequities that are overlooked within it. It was surprising to all of us that New Hampshire towns are responsible for the majority of funding in our schools and that depending on where you live, your education has a different monetary value. We had everyone in class write things down that they feel are important to an adequate education. So some of these things are things that we felt Timberlane has successfully offered to us as students, and some of these things are areas we feel the school has a need for and is not being adequately funded. So those are being passed out now.
So you can just take a look at those.
Yeah, take a minute to read them. On the back, there's a little paragraph in each of them.
They're all written by us and the rest of our classmates.
Yeah,
So
everyone in our class wrote at least one.
Might I add, very good handwriting. I'm impressed.
not all of them.
We did. I may have rewritten Sebastian's.
Disposition, okay.
As everyone's taking a look, would anybody like to read theirs for us so everyone can hear it?
Start with the cafeteria food. Cafeteria at Timberlane offers such a large variety of options for every student. It makes sure everyone gets a full meal and there's something for everyone if some things seem undesirable. I personally love to get nachos, but they have salads and sandwiches and more. And the second one is theater. US students, nor is it us students. I think it's we students. Students here at Timberlane are lucky to have such an amazing theater program. It is known that we are one of the best performing arts high schools. I believe that it would help us even more if we had more funding towards theater. The only funding we have now is what we make from ticket sales, and we use that on sets and for other shows.
Yeah, and in the corner of each one, it has an R and H. You each have like one of each It's in like highlight things we like and then a request. Yeah. Does anyone else want to read theirs?
Sure.
Yeah, go for it.
And I'd like to attend this club meeting. This is in regards to the diplomacy club. This is from the chair. It is important that the diplomacy club gets increased funding as they have more than doubled in membership each year, and as a result, the diplomacy club budget can no longer provide for every member to attend our most prestigious conference, the Harvard Model Congress. A large delegate fee of $140 creates an unnecessary financial burden, and the resultant numbers opting out of a great opportunity to learn debate, public speaking, social and critical thinking skills is at risk.
Request is R, right?
Yes.
H is what?
Highlight.
Highlight.
Yeah.
R, so this is for theater. The theater program at Timberlane receives no funding. While it has lasted, although being self-sustained, even some funding would bring the program ever further. It is such an important outlet for so many students and has brought joy to the community for almost 40 years. We would be able to have better sets, costumes, and hopefully pay our teachers a little more for all the time they put in. So that's an R, and then an H is the ability to take AP classes. I really appreciate the opportunity to take AP level classes. They allow me the chance that with enough hard work to get college credit and save money in college, AP classes have also given me a real challenge that allows me to grow. Finally, AP courses have given me more opportunities to encounter other driven people.
Yeah, you'll notice that almost every single bundle has either a highlight or request that's theater or music based, which is almost everyone in our class is in one of those two programs, and we have someone from every ensemble in our class, which is like that in most classes. It's a very big program, so.
And a lot of APs specifically.
Yeah, a
For
lot
some
of
reason,
AP.
There's like a
there's like a
correlation.
lot of music people that take the AP classes. So you'll notice a lot about those particular programs.
So you're suggesting some cross-pollination is taking place?
Yeah, probably.
Sorry.
No.
So the H for highlight, that's something that you are trying to highlight that is a Timberlane advantage, or what does the highlight mean to you?
Is like something that we like about our school.
Gotcha.
Like theater, whatever.
That we want to like continue, and also something that we like feel kind of back to that like adequate education thing, like we feel is part of that and like needs to continue to be part of that.
Yeah, we didn't want to come in with just like these are the things we don't like. We want to say there's things we do like.
We do, and we want to continue.
Here's something you don't like. I know I have an AP one. It's pretty much consistent with sports and people in the performing arts excelling and how important those two things are. So I concur with your assessment there. But here's one you don't like. I avoid the bathrooms at all costs because they are so gross. They smell bad and are filled with flies. Beyond disgusting. And when I went to Exeter High School on a field trip, I was shocked to see how clean and nice the bathrooms were. Their sinks stay on without having to press on them a bunch. I only use the performing arts bathrooms, but only when I'm in that block during the day. Students, I don't know what that word is, showing not have to use dirty, should not have to use dirty and outdated bathrooms. We're working on it, guys.
Glad to hear it.
And by the way, I don't blame you.
Does anyone have the athletic fields one and want to read that one by chance? I think that just highlights something that we haven't really heard.
Absolutely. This is from Spencer, class of 25. I've been able to participate in sports all 4 years. Unfortunately, I've been plagued with an injury due to the uneven surfaces on the fields. I broke my ankle because of the poor fields. A turf field would allow us to be safer and to play at a more competitive level.
Make sure Spencer gets all A's.
We're gonna bring him, but he didn't want to bring his scooter. He scoots around right now.
All right.
Hurts too.
Thank you for reading those. We also wrote a few questions, and we're hoping that this will be kind of the start of a good conversation moving forward. Sorry, is your question?
Sorry. When you receive the budget from the budget committee, what do you hope they are taking into account? Anyone can answer that.
Student needs, student safety, which is on one of my cards, by the way.
I feel very strongly about adding a crossing guard.
So let's talk about that.
Yeah,
I like this card.
I live 15 minutes away from the school, and I leave my house 30 minutes early before school starts every day. And most days I try my best, and so does Ellie, like everyone does. And I will still end up being like between like 5 and 8 minutes late still. And I just don't, I feel like I shouldn't have to leave my house like 40 minutes early to get somewhere that's 15 minutes away. And it's due to the fact that coming in from the Danville Sandown side, like not the Atkinson Moore side of it, when people are trying to drop their kids off and in the line for the high school, they're just, the line is the road. So if you're trying to get to pack parking spots, which is all of us, for example, there's a lot of people that have packed parking spots. You can't like get by them and you have to wait in that line too. And some days I'll get there and the line will take me 2 minutes to get there. And then other days I get there, like this morning it took 15 minutes. And if you're late to more than 3 classes in one block, you get a detention. And so it's just really hard. Like I have to I'll be like emailing my teacher from the line, like I'm here, it's 7:10, I'm back at the road, like I don't know what else to do. And I feel like having a crossing guard so that we could have the cars either like move over, like on the Atkinson side, it's not a problem. People like go through their yards and like the edges of them are getting really torn up. And I think having a crossing guard to like tell people like you can go this way, can you guys move to the side would be very helpful.
Yes, I live 25 minutes away, and I don't do well in the morning to begin with, and I've started having to take another way to get to school to go around through like the Atkinson Moore side of it, which takes longer, but so I have to leave earlier, but I don't have to wait in that line, which makes me even more late, and so that is not easy, and it's kind of difficult to get into the school. That is something that we are all very
passionate about. A lot of people say leave for school earlier, but then if everyone leaves earlier, then the line's just happening earlier. The problem is the line itself. Sorry, you raised your hand.
Mark and then
I will challenge you. I will challenge your class. You've spent a lot of time doing this, talking about adequacy, and you asked us a question, what do we hope to hear from the BudCom? I don't know whether you've been following or not, but earlier this week, we did have a joint meeting with BudCom. You heard a number of people from the public talk. I don't think a single one of them mentioned any of the concerns or any of the highlights that you mentioned. With every budget, there are pros and cons. With every budget, there's give and take. Not everybody's going to be happy. Because of the situation we all find ourselves in, talk to your parents about this. There are people that are looking to curtail the current budget, which means give and take. What is it that we are willing to pay for as a community? These voices, what we're hearing now, are some of the only voices that we have heard in public meetings that are expressing your desires, your concerns, and you ultimately are our constituency. That's why we are all here to serve you. That is not always heard in these discussions. So though you may not be able to vote at deliberative, though you may not be able to vote at some of these other meetings, I will challenge you, not just to make this a class project, but to actually become involved and express your reality. The bathroom thing, when the card was read about the bathrooms, every single one of you nodded your heads involuntarily, including the guys in the back. So that's the only universal thing. Without hearing that from you, how do we know to prioritize that? How does the community say, is this worth our tax dollars to change a bathroom? So that's my challenge to you.
Are there any public budget committee meetings that we can go to?
So every single one of them are recorded, and so I highly recommend that you go back and watch them. We just had one on Monday, and then we will have another one on December 26th.
Is that here?
Yes, it will be
at
here.
7?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Please.
Then go ahead.
Quickly, we actually have 2 budgeted crossing guard positions. We interviewed this year, and we had somebody secured and then they backed out. So we recognize the need as well. It's about 4 hours a day, 2 hours on your campus, 2 hours over at Pollard, which is another kind of crazy place, right?
Yeah, I can imagine.
So if you know adults in the community that would like to really serve and assist us, my direct extension here is 2227, and I'm happy to have a conversation with them. It would be very helpful if you could help us generate interest.
Yeah, thank you.
It's kind of a yucky thing to do because when it's
Yeah.
12 degrees outside or
Makes sense. It's not
pouring
like a-
rain, but it certainly is
It's not like a
important.
sought after job exactly, but I think it would benefit. Yeah, we can look into that.
Was there anything else for that question, like what you're trying to take into account, like the main things?
Yeah, I have something for you guys. So when you put together a budget, a lot of people think it's as simple as how are we gonna fund math, English, science, and those are the core things you really have to know. But when putting together a program, you have to take into consideration the mental well-being of the students, their physical well-being. And I think you guys touched base on it, the importance of the extracurricular things like the performing arts, like athletics. And that's why there were a lot of people that like to see those things toned down. But I would suggest, and I would love you guys to articulate and emphasize how important those programs are to your success. Because it's not just about going to class and leaving, unfortunately, these days, with all the challenges you guys have in front of you, let alone the morning thing. So, but I'm very impressed. I'm impressed with you because you want to come here the day after Christmas and sit in a budget committee meeting. But I
I got
would,
13 days. I got a break.
I would urge you all to come and do for them what you just did for us. So thank you.
Do we like to talk at those? We have to sign up somewhere.
Yes, so what you would need to do is you would need to fill
Do they
out
have to
this.
be 18?
I don't know, we'll find that out,
We
but
can waive that.
yes, we
I
can.
think so. Well, that's what I'm
But you
saying, they
would
might have
just,
to do
what
that
you
as
would
part of the
do
process.
is you would sign a meeting participation form. And then
Yeah.
that's how you would sign in. It's normally with the secretary at the beginning of the meeting. And then there's a section for delegates and individuals that you guys get your 3 minutes to speak.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, and it's not a back and forth like it is right now. So it's your
Okay.
time to speak.
Yeah.
We'll take it under advisement, under consideration, and then it's the next
Is
person.
there a time limit?
3 minutes for you, for the individual to
Yes,
speak.
that makes sense.
Each.
Thank you. Each. Okay.
So 15 minutes. Yeah.
15.
15 minutes. You guys can make an impact.
Thank you.
I used to be a high school principal at Timberlane.
No way.
They may not know.
An active group of kids that would bring their concerns to me, similar to concerns you have. And it's very helpful because every year we have to go through a budget request process. And when you can, as a principal, say, this isn't just something that I see and I want, but this is something that the students are asking for, and here's the evidence of that. Like tonight is evidence of what students are looking for. And it's very helpful, it's very informative, and it's also very public. But Mr. Bacarezza is going to be looking at his entire list of needs and wants, and the things that you say could push something that he sees as a want, maybe to something that's more of a need. So I just suggest that you aren't shy about, making sure that, how things are accurately portrayed, which includes your perspective.
Thank you.
I know you as a group also have some other questions that you're looking
Yes,
at, maybe
we
get
do.
some feedback and input from the board. Awesome.
Lizzie?
Yes. What do you feel is adequate funding, and how do you plan on ensuring your current budget will guide future budgeting decisions that benefit students?
Wait, say that one more time.
Okay, sorry. What do you feel is adequate funding, and how do you plan on ensuring your current budget will guide future budgeting decisions that benefit students?
Well, the problem with Timberlane is that we have been, unfortunately, for a number of years, due to the separation of Hampstead, COVID, we've had a couple superintendents we've gone through. We've lost a lot of operational momentum and lost what our vision is. And right now, we're trying to, some of our buildings have gone neglected for various years, and we're having to fix those things. So just really deep diving into our budget, which this administration, I can happily say that they have done that. But you've got to be able to be transparent, which we have been very transparent with, and so has this administration. Anytime anybody's ever wanted to ask a question, get a document, they've been great with getting that, but just getting out to the public the facts, and this is what we need voices like this and just presenting a budget to the voters and then letting it be in the voters' hands.
I have a
Yeah, thank you.
I have a question for you guys. And I always ask this when I'm in the supermarket checking out. If you had a choice of one thing, your first choice that you could change in high school, what would it be? Like an asset, say.
It's a big question.
Yeah, who's on the
Yeah,
spot
welcome to
now?
our world.
I guess this wouldn't qualify as an asset, but I've always thought, like, looking at when we looked at a few of like the other districts when we did it, and I've always thought our teachers, like, even if we had to take away from something else, if we had the extra money in the budget, that they should go to the teachers, because there's quite a few teachers who do so much extra. And there's also like this year I have like the best teachers I've ever had, but I don't know that that's necessarily always the case. I know a lot of people have like had teachers come in and out halfway through the year, and just like I have good teachers now, I think, because I'm in pretty much just APs, but that really was not always the case. And I think that like having the little bit higher teacher pay would attract better teachers, and the good teachers that we have would want to stay. So that's what I would say.
Thank you.
So you're coming on the 26th is what I just heard.
I'd probably say like the bathrooms, and then just like I feel like a general facelift of like, I feel like that sounds kind of stupid, like, oh, aesthetically pleasing, but not in the way like aesthetically pleasing, just like updating and modernizing. Like that's a big thing. You can't just like automatically be like, oh, there we go, now it's new.
I must say, the new light switches are awesome.
Big fan.
That's a big deal.
Yeah. Yeah, it's probably what I'd say. Just like modernizing, like if we could, just like
That's true.
literally like every little thing. I don't know.
There's quite a few things that
Yeah.
just have drawings on them.
Especially like the bathrooms they're rough.
Yeah.
Like some of the supplies in the classrooms too, like the desks and chairs and tables, things like that.
I know that the boys' bathroom is, I think it might be even rougher than the girls'
Does it have a
bathroom.
sink?
But when you're sitting outside, we
Oh my god, it's
when you're
so
sitting
bad.
outside, there's a table kind of outside the cafeteria, and the bathrooms are right there. You can see everything.
You can just see into the
It's you can
bathroom.
see everybody.
We were sitting out there like writing this up with
Doing
Mr.
this.
Kelly doing this, and we like look up and we're like, oh, so you can just see into this bathroom as we're sitting here trying to plan for the school board. So like a door would be nice.
Mr. Sapia, you said we're working on the bathrooms, right?
Yes, we are. We just took, Chris will tell you, they just took a trip up to Keene to explore their new bathrooms. I took a tour with the principal last week. I did teach there for a year during the pandemic, so I understand the 500 section challenges. Yeah, so you guys were like my early Christmas gift.
Yeah, I have to say like the packed bathrooms are really nice, and I feel like that's a general consensus by like
The whole school.
if you ask anyone in the school like which bathrooms would you go to, they'd be like, oh, the pack, but you can't like you can't send a pass from the high school to walk outside of the school to go to the pack and then come back.
Beyond the condition of those bathrooms, they're too small.
Yeah.
I have not ever been to a high school that had smaller facilities, more difficult for students to sometimes find a bathroom that they want to get to, so it takes them longer. They'll go through the hallways to find one that might not be as.
Especially ones right by the caf are
Difficult
like a
to
broom
use.
closet.
There's another thing too, like we have this thing called Smart Pass, these electronic bathroom passes. It just makes it impossible to go to the bathroom. You send a pass and you have to wait in an electronic line before you have to go to use the bathroom. And it's supposed to prevent like people from, vandalizing the bathrooms, but it also prevents people from who actually need to use the bathroom using the bathroom because it takes forever. And sometimes it's just, there's so many problems with it.
For a pass to end, it has to go through the full 8 minutes. If you don't like trying it, it has to go through the full 8 minute cycle and then an additional like 2 minutes like late time. So if 3 people are in the bathroom you're trying to go to and they're just like running up their time, just hanging out in the bathroom, you could be waiting for 30 minutes. Like to just go to the bathroom as someone that just wants to go to the bathroom.
The bathrooms are on our radars and we are
Yes.
definitely trying to fix them.
New
Did you have
conversation.
did you have some other questions that you wanted to ask us?
Sorry, we're
Yeah,
very
sorry.
passionate
No,
about
you're great, and I
about
wish we could,
development.
and I wish we could sit here all night and listen to you guys, but unfortunately we can't.
I think
Yeah,
we should
no,
just
I
sit up
understand
here.
that.
I did have one sentence about the last part of what you said about the rest of the building is I've been to so many other schools because like for student council and for like sports, like basketball, we go in the building. And I think like having a nicer facility in general, it does make you want to be there more. It makes you prouder of your school. Like I think that like is huge. Like when I go to like Exeter, I'm like, oh, it's so nice. And then when I see like other schools come to our school and they're like, I'm like, I don't know. I think it genuinely would help like really add a lot. I think. But that's all.
Who's stamina? How does the quality of an education impact a student's future opportunities and life course?
Mark.
You know the answer to that question. You all do, because of the opportunities from these cards that we see that you have taken advantage of. And it's no coincidence that there's, again, that cross-pollination between the arts, the sports, and students who have chosen a more rigorous academic pathway. And you're doing it for a reason, right? I was a graduate of Timberlane as well. I had opportunities in the music program and in athletics that allowed me to stand out early on in my career, to shine. Because of the confidence those team building activities created. It's a pathway, not a guarantee, but a pathway to success. We recognize that. Unfortunately, when the tax bills come in and people vote, they don't necessarily see that. So again, deliberative, please come.
I think that was a good answer.
I'm also a Timberlane alumni, so is Alyssa. We're here to give back to the community that gave to us. I don't mean to speak for you, Alyssa, but I know you feel the same way. But I mean, that's why I became a school board member, was to give back to the community that raised me, which is exactly what you're speaking to today.
I like that about Timberlane. There's a lot of people that went there that come back to be a part of it.
Woody was my coach.
Yeah.
All right. Our next question, and we've talked about this kind of a bit already, but just to kind of touch more of the why. Like, so student perspectives aren't often considered when legislators make decisions. So should they be, which we've touched on, but also like how and why also.
Well, you're the ones that have to go to school and be in those buildings.
That's what I'm saying.
Anybody else want to
Well,
chime in?
it's your lived experience, right? And so the folks, the legislators, I was gonna use another adjective, those folks are making decisions and they haven't been in a classroom in how long? Right? And so you guys are the ones with the lived experience, Lizzie. You are the ones with the current lived experience, and you're speaking for the voices of yourselves, but also for the students that are coming up behind you, because you guys are at an interesting place where you're at the end of your academic career here at Timberlane, but you've come through the entire system, so you're speaking for all of the student body when you share your lived experience and voice. How do you do that? I'm sure there's lots of opportunity to write letters and things, but what you're doing right now is exactly where you start in the process, for sure. And I'm sorry we didn't have you come sooner, but I know it was part of the activity in the process. But we're really grateful that you're here, because a lot of what you guys are saying and a lot of what's on these cards, like, I gotta tell you, the crossing guard thing, listen, I live half a mile away and it took me 22 minutes to get my kid to school this morning, right? So I can appreciate that. Also, my mom was the last crossing guard at Timberlane and she retired and hasn't been replaced. So, and she loved that job and she loved making sure that kids got to school safe all the time, right? So, again, being part of the process and having your voice heard, whether it be in a public meeting just like this with preparation and an activity and solid facts, is where you begin. And then you're gonna have to do that online campaign thing, which you guys know technology works. So get on the email and email your local politicians, because that's gonna help.
So, first of all, this was an extremely high-level presentation you gave tonight. And that I can attribute to two things. One, your teachers and the staff here. And two, your parents. And it seems like they did all the right stuff, right? So even though it may not seem that way all the time, it's true. And I can promise you, because I just had 2 children graduate here, what, about 10 years ago, Don? 12 years ago?
Just graduated.
Yeah, just graduated. They too took all of those AP courses that were involved in performing arts and athletics. And they and all their friends completely knocking it out of the park in the real world. So I see the similar path for all of you folks. So you know what, it takes a while to get there, and once you're there, you'll be like, wow, as much as I like to share all that with you, I won't, but you guys are lucky to have the teachers that you have and the parents that you do, so good luck. And this was very impressive.
Thank
Thank you so much. Thank you all for your time, and we do look forward to continuing this conversation.
We have one more saying
The
and then.
last thing I would suggest is because you cannot vote, you can express yourself. I'm guessing you have spoken to your parents. If not, have your parents advocate for you. Because at this stage, they're the ones who have the say. They're the ones that will be shouldering the financial burden for any decisions we make. And every suggestion you made, and I'm agreeing with them, has a financial cost. They're the ones who have to make that decision, them and their neighbors. So reach out to your parents and your friends' parents and, make certain that their voices are heard because they're part of the community as well. Thank you, guys. Awesome.
Thank you.
Two-
We'll give
two
these
quick-
back to you
two-
so that you can bring these with you. Read these.
And also,
exactly
while
these.
you're gathering
Sorry.
though, Superintendent Krieger's gonna say something.
2 quick things to close. We talked about crossing guards. The voters have approved and placed a value on that position. It's budgeted at $18,900 to give you the financial numbers behind that position. Second, we are working regionally with other superintendents to get state legislators together with us to be talking about school funding. If that comes to fruition this year, I'll connect with Mr. Kelly and perhaps we can get an engagement with you and the state senators and Congress people to have a conversation.
Now you can go. Student rep, Abigail. Go for it whenever you're ready.
Okay, perfect. I will jump in. Starting with the high school. Oh, that was a really informative. I appreciate that. I know all them, so
Tough
which is
act to follow,
awesome.
isn't it?
Yes, I know, right? But starting off strong for Millie's Meals. So tomorrow is kind of our Millie's Meals. We do basketball and improv, and there are 3 different things you can choose from throughout the day. It's a fun little winter send-off for holiday break. So a scheduled milkman show is during the day, a student or staff faculty game, and then games and crafts in the cafeteria. And then Milkman will also have their regular scheduled show tomorrow night at 7 in the Pack with the theme of Whodunit, which is kind of interesting. I'm excited to go. Key Club actually wrapped up their coin drive this week, donating to Millie's Meals, raising about $797 in coins, which is amazing. And shout out to Mrs. Massioli's Period 2B class for raising the most money collectively, which was $237. So last Friday the 13th is actually a pretty busy day for the high school. High school staff gave out free hot chocolate and cookies during lunch in the cafeteria as a fun way to spread holiday cheer. And then also on Friday was Tacky Sweater Day, and many people participated. The winners receiving gift cards on Monday, and cookie decorating actually happened in the cafeteria that night to support the class of 2026, which was a fun way to include the community. And holiday concerts took place last weekend. The band, chorus, and orchestra had their winter concert, putting on great performances at the Pack. As for a little sports update, girls basketball had their second game on Monday, which was a home opener against Merrimack, and it was a win. And then girls also had their first game against Spalding, which was away. Boys basketball had their first game of the season on Friday, which was a home opener, putting up a tough game against Spalding. And they had the second game, which was away on Monday against Merrimack. Boys hockey had their first game on Monday at Monadnock Fall Mountain Conant. And also going to honor societies, English Honor Society sold gingerbread house making kits, which is really fun. We stayed after school and handmade them, which was an awesome experience. People purchased them for $5 and we gave them out today. And then for National Honor Society, we sold candygrams, which is a fun way for friends to send candy canes and a little fun message to let them know that they're thinking of them before the holiday break. And track also, I'm kind of skipping around here today, but track had their first meet at UNH last weekend, putting up great qualifying times as well. Wrestling also had a quad meet, which they won 2-1 overall, and they had their Play for a Cure against Pinkerton yesterday, which is for Project Hope, which is raising money for cancer awareness. Moving on to Atkinson Academy. So students participated in their spirit of carrying holiday cards for seniors, which was organized by the school counselor, Barbara Gallant. And all students made handmade holiday cards for the seniors in their community, which was a fun way to let them know that they were thinking of them. Students and staff participated in Holiday Spirit Week from the 16th to the 20th, so tomorrow, and each day had a different theme. On the 13th of December, students in grades 3, 4, and 5 attended an anti-bullying presentation brought to us by the Hampstead Middle School staff and students. On December 18th, the Salem Rotary visited their grade 5 students to discuss the Constitution and its importance, and also gave them a little pocket Constitution, which I thought was pretty cool. I actually didn't think of that. I like that idea. A huge thank you to the Student Council at Danville for organizing a clothing drive in coordination with the Epilepsy Foundation of New England. And all 250 bags of donated items were picked up today. So thank you to all who donated for that cause. Staff and students were participating in various spirit days also at Danville this week, leading up to winter break. At Sandown, they are super proud of their student performances at Monday evening's elementary honors concert at the PAC. They had a wonderful second grade pancake breakfast with their students and families on Thursday as well. And special thank you to the PTA at Sandown for their hot cocoa bomb gifts to all students. They're also looking forward to their all-school holiday sing-along tomorrow afternoon, which is kind of a fun way to start winter break. At TLC at Sandown Central, the students and staff showed great enthusiasm by participating in the various themed spirit days this week, which is a pattern among elementary schools. They had a really fun time finding pieces and putting Frosty together after a strong wind blew him all around the school. Which I like getting more creative with these ideas. I love it. So, and then special thank you to the PTA for the hot cocoa bums, like they said before. And then at the middle school, kind of wrapping up, on Friday, December 13th, they hosted their annual spelling bee. So shout out to third place, who was an 8th grader, Taylor Lopez. Second place was a 7th grader, Lucas Scuppa. And first place, 6th grader, Bria Bowman. And then on Saturday, December 7th, the middle school also hosted a senior tea event for the Vic Geary Center in preparation for the holidays. And then also a little thing going back to the high school. At TT, my friend and I made a little segment about Millie's Meals. So you should check out Timberlane, the social media platforms we'll be posting that soon. So a little overview of what they do for improv and basketball. It's kind of fun insight, which should be posted soon. So that's really exciting.
Thank you.
That's gonna be today.
Abigail, did you place recently for track?
Yeah, we had our first meet for qualifying for cross country, yes.
Very exciting.
So thank you so much. Yeah.
I read that the other day. I was like,
Oh yeah, your favorite. That's
Yes.
exciting. Cross country and track are off to a great start. So
congratulations.
thank you so much. Appreciate that.
Right. Delegates and individuals, we have Michael Bashir.
Hello, everyone. So I'll make this quick. I'll do it within 3 minutes.
Okay, thanks. Appreciate that.
So I just came here to speak on behalf of the ad hoc kindergarten committee. First of all, I want to thank the superintendent for bringing up the idea and making sure it got created. I'd like to thank the school board for approving that creation and also participating in it. And I also want to thank the district administrators who've been a part of it and putting in the work to do the research and really figure out if fully funded full-day kindergarten is something that should happen within the school district. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to attend the committee meetings like I would hope to, but from what I can tell from the meeting minutes is that it appears to me at least positive data that shows a trajectory that full-day kindergarten is a demand within the school district, and that there is a trend of half-day students dwindling down. So there's definitely a need for full-day kindergarten within the school district. Another thing that at least I am speculating from the information that I've seen in the minutes is that the ability for this district to provide full-day kindergarten is actually very feasible. I don't want to be mean about this, but as a point of reference, it may be as cheap as tennis court lights to have enough teachers to have full-day kindergarten available to everyone. And I think it's about time that we make sure that we provide the most equitable opportunities to all our community members. And I think as a parent of young children, I know that it's important to make sure that we do everything we can to help those young families by giving them an opportunity where they don't have to think about another cost, because it's already costly to have young children. And another thing, obviously, I don't wanna take away from the presentation that's coming up. I'm looking forward to it. Like I said, I think there's going to be a lot of positive developments coming from it, based on what I can see. And that's very consistent with what other districts have been figuring out throughout the state, as according to our morning meeting minutes, the Timberlane Original School District is one of the last school districts in the whole entire state to offer fully funded full-day kindergarten, which is, in my opinion, a little bit embarrassing considering the size of our school district. It's definitely something we could have provided a long time ago, in my opinion. It's also a goal of set of ours within the 5-year strategic plan. So I think it's incumbent as a school district to finally make it happen. And if there is an opportunity or any action to make that a possibility, to fully fund full-day kindergarten, no longer charge tuition for these young families, and definitely do something beneficial for our community, I hope you take the right action. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I have the remaining 27 minutes of delegates and individuals moved to the end of the meeting? So moved. Do I have a second? Seconded by, so first made the motion by Kim, seconded by Mark. Any discussion? All those in favor? Alrighty, cool. Next, we've got approval of the minutes. We just have regular business meeting minutes, correct? From December 5th.
Make a motion to approve the school board meeting minutes from December 5th, 2024.
Motion by Shauna. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Alyssa. She beat you.
She did.
Any discussion on these meeting minutes? All right, all those in favor? Opposed and abstains. All right. Next, first, current business, Eagle Scout Pack Patio Projects. Come on down. Evening, sir.
Hi, my name is Cameron Stack. I'm a junior here at Timberlane Regional High School. I'm also the Junior Assistant Scoutmaster for Plastow Troop 18. I am the Secretary for Timberlane's Orchestra and Music Honor Society. To obtain my Eagle Scout, right now I am a Life Scout, so to take that final step, the BSA would like you to prepare and perform a project. After talking with the director of music, I came up with a patio right to the left of the entrance, where right now it's just some green space. This patio would be approximately 20 by 20. It would be a space for small ensembles, to be able to perform during the nicer weather times, a gathering space for students and community members. For the actual groundwork, Billy Bartlett and Brothers Landscaping, they will do the physical digging down approximately a foot. I have gotten permission from Mr. Schweiss, of course. I have talked to Dr. Martin, and they have given me their blessing. Mr. Perry, as well, he has also said that this is 100% a feasible project and would not be impossible at all. I'm planning on fundraising by doing what the PAC did, by selling engraved bricks that will go around the border. The border will be made out of red bricks, just like the walkway up to the Performing Arts Center already is, and we'll have gray 6x6 pavers in the middle. And I might be looking for a donation from the Timberlane Music Association for, or some other organization for a Timberlane music logo to go in the middle. I do not see any cost for you initially or in the future. It should be self-sustainable. I mean, any extra funds or anything will go right back to the Timberlane Performing Arts Center. And my scout troop will be holding on to the money, so the school will not be involved at all with any of the financial process. There may be a little reconfiguring of the land, but just to make sure it stays up and level, so that it doesn't sink down and then you guys do have to bring it up. I don't want to have to do that to you.
Appreciate that.
So, yes. Are there, any questions?
Jack?
So, as a former bricklayer who spent a lot of time on his hands and knees doing pavers, as a former contractor and who's done this for friends and family and they all still talk to me. If you need any help at all relative to technical stuff, don't hesitate to give me a holler and I'll be more than happy to help you out, whether it's estimating the amounts or how that process works. So I'm very impressed and always like a guy in uniform. So, good job.
Shauna?
Thank you.
I love this. I love the creativity. I love the thought. I love the community support that you have and the outreach that you've gone and dug into to make sure that this is something that would be wonderful.
No pun intended.
Seriously. Something that I noticed recently that was brought to my attention as a board member, I'll share with you because I think this may align with your project. Was recently at a performance, so we have some folks in our population that have difficulty getting in and out of the pack because of the distance between the parking lot and the doors. And I can see right here in the picture, there's one bench out there. So would you consider potentially putting some seating spaces in there?
Yeah, that is something.
I know it's a performing area, so I didn't know what you had in mind in terms of like seating or things, but that would be a nice opportunity for community use as well, not just for the performing pieces.
Yes, that was another idea we also had with benches that would be able to be moved for performances. So possibly from the Eagle Board, I got approved this project.
Got it.
Any extra funds I make, I cannot go and buy other things that have not been approved without the approval of the Historic District Boy Scouts of America, their approval. So once I give the funds back to the Timberlane Performing Arts Center, what they do with it is whatever they may do. If I advise them to buy some benches or something, that is always a possibility, yes.
Would you consider doing that? That's what I figured you were getting at. I wanted to give you the opportunity to share that information. But thank you for taking that piece of this puzzle into consideration. And just thank you for your commitment to our community and our district.
Quickly, madam. Oh, I'm sorry. Please.
That's okay. Cam, I love this project. I've told you this. I've heard this for I don't know how long you've been talking about this for a long time, I feel like. And I've been waiting for you to come. I'm very excited about this. I'm very excited about the engraved bricks. And I will definitely, I've already talked, we will be one of the first ones that buys one of those. So I don't know if you've already figured this out, how many bricks you're gonna need for the area, the space. Have you already figured all this out? Are you waiting to get the actual supplies from wherever you're going to be getting? I know it said Landscapers Depot or Freshwater. Yeah. Do you know how many are going to be available for people to buy?
Not exactly sure yet. Me and Mr. Schweiss were doing the math. If we do the exact same border that is next to it, it was 4 wide, so it'll depend on how many of those bricks we want to engrave, and it'll depend on different things. So I think we would be getting to that portion
yeah, I'm very excited about it. So I have a feeling that you're gonna get a lot of interest with people wanting to buy the bricks. I think you're probably gonna get more interest than you think you're gonna get.
So two things very quickly. Mr. Schweiss has some ideas also for the future, perhaps buying some sort of outdoor sound equipment for ensemble performances, et cetera, for this area. And I'm going to embarrass Cam because Cam was the top scorer in the state for classical all-state on upright bass. And that is a very unusual thing. We'll talk, we have some more students who, but just to really highlight Cam, you are an extraordinary young man, and I'm happy to do anything that I can beyond what we've already done to support your project.
So assuming you can guarantee Alyssa gets at least one brick, I'd like to make a motion to approve the patio project as proposed by Cameron Stack.
Got a motion to have a second?
I will second that.
Oh, Sean beat all y'all. Motion, got a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Opposed and abstained? All right, go forth.
Thank you, Karen.
Thank you.
Take good care.
Right. Next up on the list is the ad hoc early childhood committee presentation.
Sorry, I beat you.
We're missing Dean, so our presentation isn't up.
Where'd he go?
I don't know.
Check the kitchen.
I'll get it.
Dean, you
Hey.
Magical.
Enter stage left.
These guys know how to do a slideshow.
Oh, this is what I want to hear about. Okay, all right. Thank you. Sorry for that technical difficulty.
No worries.
All right, so we are here providing some information from the Early Childhood Ad Hoc Committee that has been in place since late spring of last year. Just as a reminder to the public, maybe information for some other people, even for some of you, initially there were two groups formed. One was tasked with examining the early childhood programming, and the other was to look at that impact of full-day kindergarten that is tuition-based in our district. When we met in May with both of those groups and we talked through some of the things that we were going to be looking for, we determined that we were better to join forces and be one group together, as any decision or determination that was coming from one group would impact the other, and so it made more sense to work together. So we moved into phase one. We know we're looking at our preschool program, our pre-K program, our kindergarten program, so really our three-year-olds through 5-year-olds. We know that early childhood education plays a vital role in our children's development and lays a strong foundation for the future 1 through 12 of school and beyond. So we, in phase one, are looking just specifically at the impact of tuition-based full-day kindergarten. So for this evening, you won't be hearing much about the early childhood programs, you will just be hearing about full-day kindergarten. So we were tasked with having 4 areas to think about and the impact on those areas in moving forward with potentially not tuition-based full-day kindergarten. So we're looking at staffing, students, facilities, and the fiscal impact. Research is large and wide around the impact of full-day kindergarten. There is a little bit of information research that's more general up front here for you, and then we're going to look at our community members' feedback for the impact that they feel that connects to that research. So, a couple of things that we've pulled from the research: the potential positive benefits of full-day kindergarten, higher academic achievement, decreased need for remediation, easier transition into first grade, better socialization and self-esteem building, less hurried instruction, fewer transitions. There's a cost saving on childcare for families. There's more learning opportunities for children, regardless of their financial flexibility. There's increased academic success coming from full-day kindergarten. And those are all of the things that we just looked at really quickly. Those are things that have been pulled from the research. What I want to talk a little bit about is the process that we went through. We conducted listening tours. We went to all 5 of our elementary school buildings, our early childhood and elementary school buildings. We had 2 sessions at each school building, and we listened to the staff. So varied staff across the buildings came and talked with us. Shauna did a great job collecting notes. And what you're gonna see are some real highlights out of the staff feedback from those listening tours. We also conducted a community listening tour where we heard from community members. I'm going to share some of that, the highlights from that information as well. So generally speaking, there are 3 high or repetitive things that came from staff. First being cost is the barrier to full-day kindergarten for students. It is a hardship on many families, which is how we end up, and we hear through registration, families who say we can't afford that, so I'll put my child in half-day kindergarten, even though they would like to be in full-day kindergarten. In many cases may need full-day kindergarten, but cost is a barrier. We also heard from staff a lot about inequitable access to developmentally appropriate means. Things like having access to lunch and recess and social times. Half-day kindergarten does not have the same opportunities as full-day for play-based learning. They do not receive unified arts classes and do not have the same amount of time to engage in any intervention if necessary. So inequitable access came loud and clear from our staff. The other was the highlighted noticeable differences in readiness in first grade. Both first grade teachers, school counselors, kindergarten teachers, unified arts teachers came, and they all spoke to that in a first grade classroom they can tell who are the students who've attended a full day program and who are the students who've attended a half day program.
And as Lucy said, that we also got feedback from the community. We had a survey that we had created looking for community feedback from not only parents of students, but also parents of future students, parents of former students, and community members. So we had that open for quite a while, got as much feedback as we could from that. We also had an evening session where community members were invited in and to just have conversations. And so again, similar to the staff feedback, there were kind of these 3 big buckets of that feedback, the first being cost. And the community felt like the cost is or for tuition-based kindergarten, cost is a barrier for students, and access to educational opportunities should not be an economic choice. Similar to staff, environment was another factor that the community felt strongly about. And then transportation was the third sort of bucket from the community. Is that support with only that one-way half-day programming. Midday transportation is the expectation for families, and sometimes that can be difficult for families, whereas in full-day K, the families, those students can ride the bus both to and from. So the community says that having children enrolled in full-day schooling provides an economic benefit to families as opportunities for work rate participation increases and increased employment opportunities and a decreased burden via tuition-based programs in our district is supported. That was the feedback from the community there. The other piece that we looked at is just what is happening in the rest of the state. We collected data from a number of different sources. But the majority of the state of New Hampshire is in full non-tuition based kindergarten. Everything in green there is every district that is full day, taxpayer supported kindergarten. Those in yellow, which is Bedford, Hampstead, and Timberlane, are the only 3 districts that we're aware of that is tuition-based full day K. And Bedford, the tuition is really only just for the second half of the day. That's what we found, is that they're paying for those parents that are paying are really only just paying for the second half of the day. Those districts in blue are half day K or unsure, but I believe we've confirmed that those 3 are all half day K. Londonderry is actually looking to move to full day K in 26-27, and New Boston is investigating full day K. So again, we come back to those 4 big things that we were asked to look at. The impact of staffing. The district currently employs 15 teachers to deliver kindergarten programming. 13 are full-time and 2 are half-time. Based on the projected NESDEC numbers for enrollment and current class size policy, a maximum of 15 full-time kindergarten teachers would be needed. Access to full-day kindergarten for all. All students have access to unified arts, lunch, recess, early intervention, increased practice opportunities, and time for play. So students benefit from the building stamina in the full day K. Facility impact, the district currently employs, like I said, 15 kindergarten teachers occupying 15 classrooms, full-time regardless of full or half-time. So there's no impact to facilities would be incurred based upon the NESDEC projections for enrollment and subsequent session requirements. The fiscal impact, like I said, the district currently employs 13 full-time and 2 half-time. So based upon that yearly enrollment, the district would increase at maximum to 2 half-time positions to the full-time positions to increase salary and benefit increase, which we could accommodate with that. We could accommodate a maximum capacity of 300 kindergarten students. The transportation is already running. There's no extra transportation. The materials are already there. To full-time, it would be an estimated increase of $143,548 in that salary and maximum benefits if taken. Sure.
So the largest financial flux that changes by enrollment is really about that tuition versus the aid offset. So informationally, what you need to know is that currently students who are in the full day program are in 3 different buckets. They either pay full tuition, they pay a reduced tuition, or they have a waived tuition. And those are there. Regardless of full or half day kindergarten right now, the district currently receives $1,933 per student in state aid. In the first year of offering fully funded full day kindergarten, whenever that is, the district receives half base adequacy and an additional half through grant, which is why you have 2 halves, because they come from 2 different places. But if we were looking to just get some information, looking at numbers for fiscal year 26, that half base adequacy is there. We would double that. So we would be receiving from the state in the first year of full day kindergarten without tuition, just over $4,000 per student, as opposed to the $1,900 that we collect right now. In year 2, you move into 100% of base adequacy. Base adequacy, as you know, changes year to year, so there's no way to project what that is going to be. So in summary, we were asked to look at 4 areas for impact in the idea of moving to fully funded full day K. We are more than covered with staff. Based on the NESDEC numbers, we would not have more than 300 students, which means 15 teachers. In the projections that we can see right now, which also means we're covered for students. We have the facilities because we have those 15 classrooms running, and the question on the table are all of the discussions around the fiscal impact.
What negative comments, of any, did you receive? Did you receive any pushback of any of those kinds, or were they?
I mean, looking through the responses on the survey, there was, a couple of feelings of, I had to pay for it for my own kids, so why should I pay for somebody else's? Just the fear of tax going up, tax rate going up, or taxes going up because of it.
I think it's a lot of questions more than it is negative.
Right.
Which, really, the hardest part, if I can make a plug, is registration. We have no idea what kids are going to be coming. And so we struggle with that every year because we sometimes don't know until the summer what our total capacity is. If our enrollment stays the same or even decreases slightly, then we need less teachers, right? So we wouldn't even be adding any positions. So everything is reliant on registration. So then it makes it hard to calculate.
I've got just one more question, then I'll let Jack have it. With these other communities that have supported this, did you look at how they incorporated it into their budget? Did they just say, hey, we're adding this to our budget, this is what we're doing, or did they do it by a warrant article and the people of those communities vote on it that way?
So in the research that I have done, I have not seen any other district with a warrant. That being said, many of these districts have been full day kindergarten for 20, 30 years, right? So if we look at just right now, Londonderry is in the process. Londonderry School Board just voted to adopt full day kindergarten for the 26-27 year if their modulars come in. That was the one caveat in their vote. It was on the table for next year. In our South Central meeting, there was a representative from the Goffstown, New Boston area. New Boston is also currently investigating. Londonderry, I just said, Pelham just moved not too long ago. Milford did a few years before that, but other than a small handful of towns, that list has been the same since before 1819.
Were you gonna add something?
Just real quick,
And then you-
the Messinic Regional School District where I previously worked added full day kindergarten last year. And credit to both of you, your research is extremely thorough, looked very, very familiar. And the community responses were also very, very familiar. Our board decided to put it on a warrant to really have the taxpayers make the decision so that there would be no question that this is really what the community wanted, even though the survey materials that we received were an overwhelming support by families.
Did it pass?
It passed. And now they have assessment data to show, all kinds of assessment data to show the effectiveness of that full year of learning.
Jack.
So I have 3 questions. First question, we have full day kindergarten versus students who go half-time versus students that don't go at all. Did we identify the performance, say in the first and second grade, of those students that didn't go or only went half-time versus those ones that went full-time?
We have looked at some data.
From Timberlane?
Yes, from Timberlane. We can track some pieces of academic data from K through 2. What we find though is that we spend a lot of important time in intervention in grades 1 and 2 in order to catch those students up. So it's possible. It's certainly not if you go to half day that we want to say that those students are behind, right? But there is definitely in our intervention rank orders, there are more students who come out of half day kindergarten than those in full day kindergarten that
So I was
require.
looking for, so that the students that go to full day kindergarten perform at a higher level, for lack of a better term.
At least sooner.
Okay, the second question is, and I hope you can identify this, the need for intervention down the line, I would think you could quantify to say, we spend an awful lot of money on special education, how much of that can be eliminated in the 4th, 5th, 6th, all the way through high school if we catch these kids really early? So I look at this as not so how much we're gonna spend on the front end, it's how much we're gonna save on the back end, if that's a way of looking at it.
The national research certainly supports that.
Okay.
That there's a decrease in special education costs.
Now, a couple slides ago, you said the cost was $143,000. You had the.
There you go. So that is for the 2.5 positions. So in our 4 buildings, we have 4 half-day programs, but 2 of those buildings have a full-day teacher, right? Cause we've sometimes needed 2 half-days. In 2 schools, it's only a 0.5 position.
Make sure that the math is transparent and accurate. I understand the faculty part of it. It's the materials, it's transportation is transportation. The materials, the equipment, we're gonna have to get it. And I'm just throwing this out, like an extra nurse, an extra gym teacher, are there other variables, especially along the materials line? I mean.
You already have to have them, because you have the same number of
They're just saying
students that some are half day.
What do we? I'm asking these guys, you only the principal of the high school. What do you mean?
Now, committee. Now.
So my point is, aren't we getting these kids like books early and at that? I'm looking for something that someone may challenge us with, and I wanna make sure that we're thorough about this. I mean, I think you guys have done a great job, but who's thinking 4th and 5th grade when you're talking about kindergarten? And that's.
So I think the answer is that the answer to your question depends on enrollment. Right now, to Dawn's point, if at Danville we're running 2 full days and a half day program, we are planning for a maximum of 60 students regardless, because that's the capacity of those 3 programs. That half day program, should it not be half day, is still only 20 students. They just stay longer. So there may be, I wouldn't wanna say there would never be a fluctuation, because we might have 50 kids right now and go up to 60 kids, but that fluctuation would happen regardless of whether students are in a half day program or a full day program.
I think my major point here was, or not even it's my point, but my major concern, or should I say, thing that I will appreciate the most, is the lack of the back end intervention for these students. And I think that's so important, because you touched base on it, the esteem a little bit. And trust me, it's difficult for a 1st, 2nd, 3rd grader to be struggling all the way through, right? As opposed to easing that for them a little bit.
So one of the things that you had touched on in the information that I found valuable is the staff talking about registration, and how unfortunately some families had registered their children then had to pull them out last minute because financially they could not afford to send their child to full day K, even though that was their intention and they were hoping to swing it last minute. They couldn't do it. And then hearing from the staff, the 1st, 2nd grade teachers saying that they noticed the difference with the preparedness of the kids that were coming in. The transition was much easier. They were used to longer days, they were used to structure, et cetera, et cetera. They had some of the basic skills that some of their peers did not. And it kind of echoed some of the parents' feedback as well, that the biggest barrier was economic. And a lot of this unfortunately does have to do with economics on both sides of it, be it the benefit of earlier intervention to save us money further down the line. The earlier you discover a problem, the cheaper it is to address that. And it occurs to me that those parents who are most struggling financially, who may not be able to give their child the full day K experience they want, are also those that would benefit the most from this. Because of the economic benefits of being able to have full day K. So I didn't hear it in the presentation and the feedback from our parents here, but I'd done some research as well. Looking at what was found here, and Canada's done a lot of the research, that for those financially more stressed households, it was a benefit in that now a parent could actually had they had the ability to have part-time work or full-time work, whereas if they were taking care of their child at home, that wasn't an option with only part-day K. So those who are struggling most under the financial burden of our current tax situation would actually ironically be benefiting the most from this. So there's a real overlap.
So I'm gonna talk to my board members here. So, and the school district, we have obligations to so many different people. We have obligations to the taxpayers. We have obligations to state law. We have obligations to federal law. We have, I mean, they're everywhere. We are very boxed in. But right now, our obligation is to our youngest learners. And right now, at this point in time, we are being told, for all intents and purposes, we could fully fund full-day kindergarten for under $200,000 with state funding next year. And we're gonna debate that. We're gonna have a conversation. Someone's gonna tell me something against that.
I don't think it's against it. I think it's how do we implement it? So one of my questions I was gonna ask is, did you look into Timberlane's articles of agreement? Because I know with half day K, like years ago, and Sandy, correct me if I'm wrong, did it not go to warrant? And did it not fail until we got half day and then that passed?
So
I'm not from this district, so I don't
half
know.
day K was on the warrant. I would have to go back to the specific warrant to determine the actual language and verbiage.
The warrant before the 2007 passing of half day?
Right, was there not some, and that's why I'm asking the question, because I thought at some point in history they had tried to do full day K and it failed. And then we did half and that passed.
I don't believe so.
I think it was the half day that passed. I don't
half day.
believe it was full day, but
Yeah.
yeah, I would wanna go back just to confirm that.
I
I'm
was
not
gonna bring
100%
my
positive.
newspaper clipping of myself holding up that sign because I was there when that happened. And I've never, in my time in the board, we've done union negotiations. Another obligation we have is to our unions. But what about the kids? We have families that need full day K, kids that need full day K, but they can't get it because they don't have $450 extra a month. That is so wrong. So I, for one, feel like whatever we can do to help that pass for next year, I think it's our obligation to do that.
So I'll say this and then I'll let Jack. So one of the things at our previous budget committee, so the budget committee for the school wants is they've tasked the administration to find $2.4 million in cuts. We've already brought them a budget that was what,
$2.4 million less, 2.6% less than the previous voted budget.
and at that last meeting, they want 2.4 more. And for us to make that, we're looking at possibly cutting.
Looking at 3 different categories. We're looking at principals and directors are looking at lines that will be small pieces, but incredibly scope filled for the budget. We're looking at adjusting some projections that would be riskier for the school district to take on as we move away from conservative projections. And then the third bucket is we're looking at staffing, programming, and capital investments.
So that's what, and again, the budget committee is the one that does the operating budget, and that's what's gonna be brought at the 26th meeting. So whether or not they decide to cut or what, that's what we're gonna be left with. I'm not against having full day K. I think we need it. Again, I came from a school district that we had that, and it was, that was something you had, and
I
again,
had it
my
in 1960.
Yeah.
So, that's what I wanna tell you, one of the, I find it offensive and embarrassing that we're having a conversation over, like you said, something that has virtually no impact on anybody in the district in terms of the total dollar amount. For a gain that actually saves us money over time for services that we will be paying, for, as a result of not doing it, that we would be able to, get by without having to pay for. So it actually will probably save us more than we will spend to create this opportunity long term and immediately no impact. So you're beating a dead horse there. I mean, if you're saying that we have a district that refuses to do things for kids because they want to cut a significant amount of money from the budget, but this isn't the thing that's costing them more money, then they're missing the point about this and its relative importance and cost.
Jack?
Yeah, there were a lot of points missed. So let's, sorry, couldn't help myself. Let's cut to the chase here. There are a couple different ways we can do this. I think we should do it. We can put it on a warrant. We could take that money that's in the asbestos abatement line, which is an equal to what you see up there number, and just say, move it from here to here and fund it. It is a lot of times, and although I respect the struggle right now, this is penny wise and dollar foolish if we don't do it. And I would say if we were to do it, I would want to take it from somewhere and replace it with this, because I can think of about 5 things off the top of my head that we can very easily get to that number. Some would say, well, maybe you should, you know, it's a trade-off. So I am very cognizant of the residents that are struggling. Inflation has grown 20% over the last 4 years. I mean, it's impossible to even buy a bag of dog food anymore. So what I will tell you is, if you want to move on this, I'm for it, but it's got to come from somewhere, whether it's the asbestos abatement line or whether it's from, you name it, I'm game. Or do we put it on a warrant and put it before? I mean, $143,000 a year. I don't even know if it goes on the warrant for the first year.
I feel, to be totally transparent, that we do it as a warrant, because if there is so much community buy-in, then it's completely transparent and is up to the voters.
Yeah, I'm indifferent, quite frankly.
No, I know. Yeah.
I'm not indifferent. I am absolute in my thought, and I would like to make a motion to ask the superintendent respectfully, and I know you have an enormous challenge in front of you right now, to find that, without raising the budget, to find that $143,000 in the abatement line or wherever else, so that we will fully fund kindergarten in the 26-27 school year. 25, 26?
25.
25, 26.
Could we just round that off to 150 or 145 just to get a round number?
Yes. I'm willing to amend my motion to $150,000.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second by Alyssa. So just for discussion, if at budget committee, they decide to cut $2 million more, and whatever, then what are you wanting this board to do?
Fully fund kindergarten for our youngest students that deserve it.
Jack?
Okay, so I can see this both ways. One thing is, this is a long-term obligation. This isn't gonna be a one-time spend, which is typically what a warrant is, right? This is gonna be in perpetuity, and rightfully so.
Jack, could I clarify just a piece of that?
Sure.
This will be, if this is what the board does and they extend these 2 positions, this will be a one-time expense. And then from year to year, you will only move the increase for those 2 staff positions as new money to the next budget line. Does that make sense?
You know, it does, but it's still an impact to the.
It is an impact, but it's not
That's-
this impact repeated over and over again.
No, it's the impact plus the additional whatever
Yes.
increases. So, I always love having residents weigh in on this stuff. On the other hand, it's so minuscule in the scheme, and please don't anyone out there in TV land take this the wrong way. In close to a $90 million budget on something that is almost guaranteed to save you money on the back end.
And save families in our district money.
I
And
am
which would be
more
offset
concerned about
over time.
we can't look, I don't think we can look at it that way, like this family has a need, because everyone would step up to that. I think we've gotta look at it, if we're going to make the argument that it is in the best interest of the children, that's the argument that we make. That's the point that we pitch. and say, in the long term, the intervention that we are spending oodles and noodles of money over right now will be mitigated by this action. So I again am, I'm on the fence either way, Kim, and I get it, I agree with you. But boy, in this environment, I almost wanna put it in front of everyone just to see where everyone, it's almost like I wanna call everyone out. If you really come in here and say, we support education, but we need a little bit of relief, if you truly honestly support education, then you would vote for that. Hands down.
Just, Jack, I'm gonna agree with you in public if you can even do that. No, in all seriousness.
And no
just-
means no,
Just to lighten the
it's-
mood a little bit,
yeah.
everybody. Obviously, my professional work as a pediatric occupational therapist and working in early intervention for many, many years and working in public schools, I understand the value of, access to education earlier on for all of the reasons that were presented tonight. I was also on this ad hoc committee. And I share a lot of the sentiments that are being discussed. I think my additional concern and consideration for this group is that if what I'm hearing is that there is an additional 2.4 million potential cut coming to the budget, we are talking about students that we currently serve in this district and their current programming and current staffing, and potentially having to change some of that. The trade-off is, obviously, I know the long-term gain for these kiddos getting into our district earlier and having needs met earlier on. And I just wanna share that as a point of interest, that we're talking about students that are in our community. But we don't know how many are coming. We don't know what the numbers are gonna look like, but we have students here now that we know. And their programming may potentially be impacted too. So I'm where Jack is in terms of sitting on the fence. I personally think it's extremely valuable. I think it's an investment in our community and our district and our children. But I also think that taxpayer voice, and community voice and involvement in it is gonna be a bigger piece of the puzzle as well. So I'm a little torn myself.
Don, go sorry.
Just want to go back about a year ago when I was able to speak with the Atkinson PTSA about kindergarten and told them how invested I was in seeing that happen over time. They were excited about that opportunity and wanted to be behind it. In that meeting, of those people who are highly invested in education, and that's why they're part of that group. But we're talking about 20 people around the table, a lot of questions. We're looking forward to us pursuing that as a board. And if there's any indication of what's out there in the district, I think everybody has an idea on their taxes, but they also have an idea that they want great things to happen for their kids over time. And I had moms telling me they could go back to work if they didn't have to be doing this, but right now they can't make that case at home. And you start to think about it in terms of people and not pretty much an insignificant increase that is offset over time by savings, and which initially isn't an increase because the state is giving us an opportunity to get good compensation right off the bat. I have a hard time, being witness to hesitation on this.
Jack?
So how many times have we all heard that we're paying top dollar and not getting a top-notch education? We hear it all the time. This is a step. This is a step that we're doing to improve the level of education. So I think I just thinking about that for a second. And when I hear about the not a top-notch education, look at the students we had before us tonight. I wouldn't trade them for anyone in the world, right? So I've said that education doesn't start when the school doors open. It doesn't end when the school doors close, and I'll stick to that. I think everyone knows what I'm talking about. I think if that budget is $50 million, don't have a heart attack, Justin. If it's $50 million, we find that 143. That's what I'm That's the side I'm leaning on right now. If you want a better education, that's one way to get it.
Our job here is not easy, obviously. I think the data is compelling nationwide, not just the feedback from our personal staff with our kids and the parents that we've heard from. We're in an uncomfortable situation where Justin has been asked to make a cut that I will reserve my public comment on at this stage. We are often asked to make financial decisions regarding staffing, adding courses, taking away courses, adding social services, having extra counselors, having psychologists, funding those positions. And we make those hard calls. The easy thing for me would be to say, let's support it on warrant article because of the political environment. That being said, reflecting back just within the last 6 months when we were presented with cost items such as, extending the paving, ripping up paving for over $200,000, but it was the right thing to do long-term, and I voted yes. And so even though it won't be politically popular, I think we put this in the budget. I agree with you, Kim, because if I can support $200,000 worth of paving, I can certainly support this. And, it's about, 1/16, represents about 1/16 of the cuts that Justin has been charged with. Real rough math, maybe that's, 2 positions, a position and a half. And what does that mean? I would rather have every child in this district able to go to full day K. I think the benefit outweighs the cost of potentially removing, 1.5, or 2 para positions. In not diminishing that, because we know that those services are needed, but the long-term benefit for the greater community, I think is there. And even though it won't necessarily be popular, I think it's the right thing to do, just to I agree with you, charge Justin to put that in somewhere and, have BudCom address it. Where's their value?
Talking about, BudCom, and I'm not on that committee, but in terms of what's driving them, they've not come to me in any way, shape, or form that I've seen to say, let's cut people, let's cut programs, let's provide less for our students. I'm hearing we can only have bathrooms that kids can tolerate, that, people don't wanna, see a lease or a bond or anything to fix the problems that we've let fester for decades, to the point that we had estimates that might be even $100 million worth of things that we could be doing to get where we should be, or should have been, or could have been, had we done things when they were first presented. I feel like we're moving backwards tremendously, and we're gonna hurt our students unnecessarily, for what sounds like a random dollar figure that they're saying, you figure it out, Mr. Superintendent. You tell us, what's important. I'd like to hear from them what they think is not important,
So none.
right? Because I think that those things have value. And that I've seen this happen 20 years ago in Hampstead, where they went to deliberative session, basically, and they said, would you like to see us lose this program that serves 150 kids? You want to see this teacher and that program go? One thing at a time. And none of those things met the muster. That none of those things got cut because the community saw what was being asked and how sad that was going to be, for the Hampstead School District. Right. And I'd rather see that. I'd rather see the community say en masse, no, not for some kind of random number that you're trying to reach that doesn't have a value attached to it that I could perceive.
It's not courageous. Agreed.
So I'll just speak briefly on the budget committee. So I've tried at the last 2 meetings to get them to go line by line and stay later. And, it's all they've been saying is that they want cuts, But we've reiterated that, you've had these budgets for months. The district has already brought you a cut budget. and these, administrators have stated, and building principals, this is what we need to run our schools. At the last meeting, to try to get them to do line by line, I looked at our stipends, which was about $14,000 just
You
to
killed us.
just to get something, just to start, and made the motion to cut our stipends because I didn't get into this to get any money, and that's a place to start. That motion passed, but nothing else. There was a motion for $4 million cut, 4.5, and then that failed, and then now they've done a 2.4. And the thing is they honestly have no idea where it's going to come from. They just want the administration. They want the administration to find it.
Well, the types of things that you'd be talking about, you're saying, okay, we're gonna carve out athletic programs, we're gonna carve out.
Yep.
We're gonna cut, art, music, we're gonna cut down on PE, we're gonna do the bare minimum of what the state says has to be done and nothing more.
Yep.
Right, and that would be a devastating blow to the quality of education here, and would probably drive more people out of this district and prevent more people from moving into this district than any tax dollar that's been proposed, including one that's already been a deep dive, of $2.4 million, you said?
Yes.
Yes.
So come on. It's not like we're not playing ball.
So
Yeah, I'm gonna let Jack have last comment, then we got to get back to
I think
the.
we're getting a little bit off track. I hope to bring up that budgetary discussion in a bit. Because I think it's
when we do
I know, but
committees,
so relative to kindergarten.
Yeah.
I'd be willing to support Kim's motion.
Yep.
If our illustrious, superintendent, thank you, is willing to find that $150,000. And I think we may take that into a non-public because I'm a little bit nervous if I say what I'm feeling in public, I could expose the district, and I don't wanna do that. Maybe I'll run it before we go into a non-public. With that said, how many districts put that in the form of a warrant? I mean, I don't expect an exact, but is it typical that it goes on a warrant? Or is it typical that I've heard both things from you, that Londonderry did it one way, and I heard from Chris that your district put it on a warrant.
Mm-hmm.
So where does the crux of that lie?
In the uniqueness of the community itself.
Yeah, but I'm
That's how I would
looking for
answer
like,
that.
is it 30-70, is it 50-50?
I don't know, and I think to Don's point, so many schools have done it for so long, and I don't know if there's a track record for us
Okay,
to look at.
I was just wondering.
Yeah.
Sure.
Kim,
Look, if we were talking about, 200,000, no, like 400,000, 600,000, $1 million to get this up and running, then I would certainly pause and say, we need a warrant article on this. We have the curriculum in place. We have the money from the state. We have almost all the staffing. We have the space that we need. We also have families that can't afford full day kindergarten for their kids, and that's not okay. I have more money, so my kid's getting a better education than your kid because you don't have enough money for full day. The full day curriculum, it's the same curriculum. Those half day teachers is just as incredible as the full day teachers. They have to cram that entire curriculum into a much shorter time. They don't get recess. The kids don't get recess to learn how to socialize with other kids. They don't get their an introduction to music, an introduction to art, an introduction to gym. So when they get to first grade, they don't have the same advantages as the kids who did it in full day. They don't have those friendships. They don't have those connections. And I'm not okay with that. I'm not okay with one small group of kids in our district missing out on that because they don't have enough money. Because they can't afford the tuition that we're putting out there for them. That is not okay. So I will stand by my motion that we ask the superintendent to find $150,000.
You're getting higher.
I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. I had two in my head, sorry. $150,000 out of the current budget, so not to add to it, to fund fully fully fund full day kindergarten for the 25-26 school year.
So that motion was already made by you. It was seconded by Alyssa. We've had a lot of good discussion. The only thing I'm gonna say before I take it to a vote is, due to the climate where we've got the budget committee doing what it's doing, the 2.5% tax cap, the possibility of cutting current stuff from our current students, I 100% agree that this district needs to do full day K. If it was a warrant article because of the climate, I would 100% support it. But I'm gonna have to vote no on this just because of all the other stuff that's going on. Does not mean that I
Fair.
do not support full day K, but just right now, with what the administration, everybody's been taxed to do, on top of that, I can't. If it was a warrant article, 100%, but that's the only reason for me.
Can I ask a
Last
question?
thing, and then we're gonna
Yeah, no,
take a vote
it's
on
just
it.
a question. We're gonna have time to ponder this before the public hearing, and then we can change things after the public hearing.
At deliberative, yeah.
Can't we change the budget after the public hearing?
No, on this end, it has to be done by the public hearing, and then any changes after that, you can do it at deliberative.
At deliberative?
Yes.
All right, I just a question.
Nope, that's it.
Okay.
All right, motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? And abstain. All right, motion passed.
Thank you.
Okay.
Could-
Thank you, go ahead, sorry.
One thing to that, so I understand the motion, I understand the directive I have. One thing I think the board should also consider doing tonight, if this is the direction you're moving, is that the 2 halftime positions that you want me to find money for to fully fund don't currently exist. So I would need the board to create those halftime positions, so when I'm funding them, I've got a place to put that money. So when we're presenting on the 26th to the budget committee, our budget is exactly accurate and presented in the manner that it should be.
I would like to make a motion.
Can I ask a question first?
Yeah.
Is it as simple as moving, so I'm not confused about this? Would we be adding 2 full-time, or do the 2 half-time turn into full-time positions?
What I understand is the 2 halftime would be fully funded as full-time positions. And right now, I'm pointing out to the board, those halftime increases don't exist, and I would have nowhere to put that money. So I need you folks as the governing body to create those positions.
Do we
Just
create?
a quick question about that. We're basing the numbers on the NASDAQ reports, right? So we don't know if we actually will need 2.5 positions.
No, but it's also
the
my
extra half
understanding that NASDAQ looks at, other things other than just the mortality rate, the kids that graduate and the kids that come in.
Birth rate.
So it's a fair.
So I think it's been accurate over time.
Right. So are we 2.5 positions, correct?
2 half.
Half, I'm sorry,
2.5.
I've said that twice now, I'm sorry.
Current
So you
halves,
asked the
each of
question
those
based on
would
the
be
number,
fully
that
raised to
number
a
of
full-
300
in
students
total,
is the total number of students we
cash
could
and half FTE.
service, we could enroll with 15 teachers. But that 300 is not a projected number for enrollment.
Right. So we would, how would I phrase that?
Hold on, we're
motion?
working on it.
Okay, thanks, guys.
So while we're
Yeah, go ahead.
doing that,
Go ahead.
I want the public to understand that in my mind, I am all for making a budget that everyone can comfortably live with. But it's kind of like watching an umpire at a baseball game. All the calls can't go in just one direction. If you really want an effective school district that has balance and does all the right stuff, I'm all for it. I'll sit down and I'll work through the night and I'll work the next 5 days getting a budget that everyone can live with. But this is about the education of kids in early intervention and about a better result on the back end. So this is one of the moves, one of the only moves I think that we've really talked about, moving in the other direction. And in the scheme of things, proportionally, it's small potatoes with big results. Hopefully.
I agree.
Almost done.
That's okay.
Lucy, I'm gonna read this and can you listen and think through and think if we're on the right track here? So we could be looking at a motion to increase 2 half-time K positions to 2 1.0 FTE full-time K positions for a total increase of 1 FTE.
Because you'll take the two halves to make a whole and you just need. the one.
Yes, except, so that figure, the 143 figure is Maria's figure based on the two people who are in there now. It isn't as simple as doubling what they are getting now, right? Because they don't have benefits. So I just wanna be careful that it doesn't just go to one position, because one position it's more than one position, because you're talking about two, potentially, if they're taken, two benefit packages into that.
Which is factored in there though.
But I'm just
Yes.
thinking this out there, that
Yes.
moving past the money, all we need the board to do is to create
Positions.
the space in the positions. This has nothing to do with the
Okay.
funding right now.
Okay,
Right.
so yes.
So I think that this
two
stands.
enterprise
This-
would equal one.
So we're only adding the one.
It is one position.
Yeah, a motion to increase the two current half-time K positions to two full-time K positions for a total increase of one FTE. That's what we're asking to do.
Okay.
I'd like to make that motion.
Motion made by Kim, I'll let Dawn second it. Any discussion? And again, I'm gonna vote no because the warrant article. All right, all those in favor? Opposed? Abstained? All right.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you guys for doing the work.
Thank you.
Good discussion, everybody. Thank you. All right, next up, special education budget transfer.
I'd be happy to present that on behalf of Kelly Brooks tonight. You've got a pretty extensive executive summary that we've asked her to prepare for you. This is the transfer that I alluded to at the joint meeting on Monday. It was helping us to explain how we do not budget for one position in two different places in the budget. That's why we're asking tonight to move money from personnel into the contract service line. If you go to the second page of that executive summary, which is page 14 of your packet, you can see the exact breakdown of positions. We're looking at 3 speech and language pathologist professional positions, 2 school psychologist positions, 33 paraprofessional positions, and 1.5 professional special education teaching positions. Using that money from personnel, moving into contracted service. Again, the purpose for that is that we can continue to pay for those contracted services to deliver the requirements to students.
Okay, so these are positions that we need, we can't hire for, and we're having to go to contract. Jack?
So, Justin and I, you and I talked about and helped explain the school psychologists and their mission.
Yes.
Does this get us through the end of the year in these particular positions?
This right now gets us through a good part of the year with the needs that currently exist.
So if someone else comes in and needs something outside of this, you'll have to do it again.
And you said that these positions are required. Are we legally?
The services that we've entered into through individual education plans are what's required. We then need the people to deliver those services.
So maybe you can help me in layman's terms here a little bit. Say that one more
We're
time.
legally obligated to provide these services because they're written into IEPs and these are the people that provide those services.
Right, and the IEPs are written by?
They're a partnership with the school district, the parent. It's the special education team that includes district representation, school representation, and most importantly, the family.
The psychologist.
The related service providers would be part of those teams, 100%. There are also, Jack, requirements of those meetings that demand specific personnel.
Again, as I dig in, I mean, I bring to the board certain functionalities and expertise, and this isn't one of them, but as I dig in and I listen to the budgetary process, it has jerked my curiosity about how, and I know I've been doing this for a while, how we exactly function. I wanna make sure that we are providing what we're required to do, that we're not creating, and please don't take this personal, but it's my job to kind of ask these questions a little bit and understand it better, and I apologize for not understanding it as well as maybe I should. I just, again, why aren't we, do you anticipate a change in these requirements? Like, why aren't we just funding it through the end of the year with these contract services? Is it because you anticipate a change up or down in the need?
I don't register that question, Jack.
May I try to answer, or sorry?
So,
who-
yeah.
this one?
So Jack, it's the thing, Madam Chair.
And I
the special-
apologize for being-
It's okay. The special education process is fluid. I would liken it to somebody's physical health, for example. You might require blood pressure medication for a portion of time, and then a portion of time you might not. So we can. It's very, very hard to predict.
I get it.
Okay.
I get it.
And the other piece too, when we talk about school psychologists, is, if you have an issue with your heart and it's a significant issue, you're not going to have your dentist take care of it. You're going to have a cardiologist take care of it, right? And that's the purpose of the school psychologist. It's a very specific purpose in the evaluation of students with disabilities to properly evaluate. It's a federal requirement.
Okay. And I guess by percentage, because I've had this discussion around the district, within the staff and everything. How many students do we actually, like you said, it's a fluid thing. You get better and you move on. How many of those kids?
Little over 600 identified students in our district, 21% of the student population.
Get, okay, but out of that 21% that are identified, how many do we get back into, I wanna say, the mainstream or?
No longer require the services, is what you
Yeah,
meant to say.
thank you, Mark. I struggle with this a little bit because I'm a little bit intimidated by it, for sure.
I have a educational disability in reading. It never went away. Okay, but I learned coping skills through the special education process that I can adapt to my disability. It's a neurological function. Okay, so are some students discharged at some point in time? Sure, but some students are not. It's a very fluid process, and it's not about I'm going to help Don and he's going to get better and then he won't need an IEP anymore. That's not how that rolls. Every child is unique.
I understand that, but I was just wondering if we had any numbers that indicate how many kids that actually come off of those.
Well, can I explain? There's a process in place where every 3 years, a child goes through a reevaluation process to determine their growth, their progress, and areas of concern and need. And at that particular, results meeting, the services may change, which is what we're talking about in terms of the fluid process. Correct.
Right.
Yep. And so to have numbers like that, those 3-year reevaluations are done based on a timeline that's unique to the child, which is whenever their IEP was signed and implemented.
So once they get that, they're in this program for a 3-year period?
Until they're reevaluated for determination. But I think my point to that, Jack, is hopefully to answer your question, is that to get a number like that is a little bit impossible because some kids, their 3-year reevaluation could be in September or October or April so he's predicting the need right now based on what we know.
This was more informative for me, and it just seemed to be with the budgetary process and these things being upfront and center, and now we get approached with this. I thought it was a good time to have this discussion.
And these are currently identified students. I think the fluidity of the situation is that there may be future identified students through the process.
We have, you said the number is 21%.
21%
of our student body.
Okay,
In our
and those are good numbers for
relatively
the viewing
average.
public to understand, I think.
Hold up, Don.
Well, that number's better than what it has been.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that has gone on in the district for a long time now is, there's a response to intervention or response to instruction, however you want to, label it, a process where teachers are basically doing things that are commonly part of kids' IEPs on a regular basis. Something a long time I've always thought that one of the things that education programs, underserved education students in, is a lack of attention to that aspect of teaching, the things that you can do to mitigate the need for professional support and special education dollars, for things that are classroom, things that are good for all students.
Yep.
Okay, and so as a district, we can put a lot more emphasis on RTI, right? And we can also, by doing that, have fewer people have to be doing the work of special educators. That special education wouldn't be housing some of these things. That's a gradual process. And really what you're taking is aspects of a kid's IEP where that one particular aspect of their total IEP is being met. And when you have a kid that has 60-70% of the things that were part of his program no longer necessary because teachers are able to do them on a regular basis for all students, including them, then that should be reflective in the load that the special educators have and the number of students that we're going to have on IEPs over time. So I don't know, it's not a small thing.
It's not.
And it's not an easy effort, and it's a lot of training. But that's where our effort should be.
Yep.
Get that number down to 15%, which would be more realistic about what's going on across the country.
I don't know if we're gonna be able to answer all your questions, Jack, did that?
No,
Did that hit a good blanket of it?
No, the only other question I have is, I look at what's going on across the country and within the state. Do we see that percentage, that 21% number, is that increasing?
It's increasing
Yeah.
across the board.
And is that in part because of the pandemic, or is it just with that, look, when I got identified, but I wasn't identified with an issue until I was a senior in high school, right? So if they had intervened earlier and caught it, and back then they probably didn't even understand what it was. So I understand it, I appreciate it, I just wanna make sure that those are good things to know. I mean, I'd love to understand why that percentage is going up. I don't know if anyone has the answer to that.
It is the $1 million question. And all good discussion on this, and IEPs and special education is all a very fluid thing and a very complex thing. But back to the matter at hand, we do have a budget transfer because again, these are services that are identified that we need, but we can't hire for them. So we are gonna have to contract out. So could
So I'd like
someone-
to make a motion to approve the personnel line budget transfer as requested by Special Education Director Kelly Brooks to the contracted services line to cover the cost of contractor providers for positions we haven't been able to fill.
All right, got a motion to have a second.
Second.
Seconded by Kim. Any other discussion?
One last thing, I'm sorry.
Nope, go.
If we should are we still actively seeking out these positions
Yes.
every day? Because we brought it up at the joint meeting, if for some reason one of these things pop up, we can bail on the contractual
Yes. Correct.
agreement, and, okay, good.
All right, motion's been made and seconded. Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor? Opposed and abstain. Okay, unanimous. All right, next is CIP recommended project list.
CIP recommended project list is also in your packet. This will kind of be a repeat of information the board's already heard, and I will defer to Jack if he also wants to entertain any information sharing as the co-chair of the CIP committee. We've got 4 projects that come through CIP and are recommended to the school board for approval in fiscal year 26. The first location is at the high school. Again, that's the first phase of bathrooms renovations. CIP has tagged that project, the first phase of it, as $500,000. The second project is on the secondary main campus. There's the boundary fencing that we talked about previously. There are some areas of that are certainly in disarray, but also projecting some danger to the folks that are using the facilities. Over at Danville, there is need to have some roof repair there, and that total is $550,000. And the bigger one here is also at Atkinson. It's going to be phase 3, the final phase of the Belfry, at $641,740. That grand total CIP project list is $1,891,740. The board has had a discussion about CIP and given me the previous direction to bring a fully funded CIP line to the budget committee, which I have previously done for the dollar figure that I've just recited to you. Jack, do you have anything that you want to add?
I do have a few things to add. I did take a tour with the principal of the high school around the bathrooms, and it's everything that the students today said it was. That is a very broad, the scope of work there could be very broad. It could be as simple as putting 4-inch block wall partitions between the stalls. It could be as extensive as cutting keys in the concrete and moving the plumbing around, which then is a whole different enchilada. Understanding Justin's challenges, the boundary fence, I would be comfortable with changing that number, and I'm not speaking for the CIP now, I'm kind of speaking as a board member. I think it's important that we look into, and I have reached out, probably inappropriately, but I did anyways, to find out what guardrails would cost for going down Linebrook and down along the SAU for two reasons. One, if it's less expensive, then I say we do it. And the second reason is, if you look at the maintenance, whether it be grass cutting or plowing along those two areas, it would be so much more efficient for facilities to work when they plow, not to have to worry about knocking the fences over. And two, weed whacking, you could just run the lawnmower underneath it and call it a day. So I would be very comfortable with lowering that boundary fence by $100,000. I think that may help you, Justin, a little bit. I'm always looking forward to helping you. The Danville roof, that was basically two phases. But if they're there, it makes sense to do it. One phase is failing, one phase isn't, if I remember correctly.
Correct.
And then the Atkinson Belfry, that was a three-phase project. The first phase was 100% structural. The second phase is also mostly structural. The king post, for lack of a better term, the ballads that have to be made up again are basically the thing that's holding the top cap of the belfry, which is holding the bell up. So there is a lot of structural components to phase two. That was in my notes. I talked to the contractor. That's what it is. The third phase of that is a lot of the coping work, and sometimes that has to be interfaced with the structural work that's being done. Exactly how much that is, I don't know. I would also add that this is what happens when we don't keep up with our maintenance. It's almost a $1 million project. What's left is $641,000, and we were supposed to, by the Articles of Agreement legally, keep the maintenance up on this thing. And by evidence of that dollar amount, we have not fulfilled our obligations under the Articles of Agreement. I think and know this is still a safety issue. The first phase was the core, the real crucial structural concerns of that belfry. But there are still many moving parts on that is still, like the king post, that is still structurally concerning to everybody. And I'd hate to see a student or a faculty member or a parent or anyone get hurt because something came, and if you look up, you can see the rot.
Yeah.
So
Question for you, where you're talking about safety, not to interrupt you, but in the spirit of what's going on with the cuts, of the 4 projects, if cuts have to be made, the fence? I guess what are of these, besides the fence, of these projects, what's the stuff that needs to be done that really, if like we have to cut something, it's like,
Well,
don't do this.
So what I would tell you about the bathrooms, the bathrooms aren't ready.
Yeah.
The belfry, we have done the engineering, we've done the work, it's all in place, it's scheduled to start. We have invested a lot of money and a lot of time in getting that going, and there are safety issues, real safety issues concerned there.
Okay.
The bathroom renovations, do we need them? Yeah, you heard the students today, but we're gonna have to hire an architect.
Yep.
They're gonna have to decide the scope of work. They'll probably come back to us with every option they give us will cost us money. And by the time the first hammer is swung, we're probably, it's gonna be a ways off. So although I would like to do the bathrooms, I don't think we're prepared to move on the bathrooms quite yet. And what does that $500,000 get you? We don't even know. We don't know what the architecturals will be. We don't know what the impact will be. And then the Danville roof, I would have to, and I apologize, but I would have to take a second look to see what those two, Justin, maybe you can remember what those two phases were. One was the flat roof, I think, and one was the
Yeah, there's 6
pitched
sections of
right?
roof over at Danville. This focuses on 4 of them. It would do a structural review of all of them. And again, to remind the board, this is simply seeking permission to approve the projects. This has nothing to do with the cost right now. If it's approved, it allows Dr. Martin and her team to get out and going out to bid and start seeing what is
So
out
no,
there.
the whole point of my question is just thinking in the future.
So
that
let
if
me-
the CIP committee had like certain
me-
ones, like don't
Yep.
cut that. if
Let me
anything.
remind you of one thing. This is all a bottom line budget.
Absolutely.
So you can approve X, and then we can determine at any point in time of the year.
Yep.
What is, I mean, if all of a sudden one of the balusters fall off of the academy or one, the roof starts leaking profusely in Danville, well, then that decision is kind of made for us. And as I have always said around this number, something is gonna come up during the year that's gonna change this anyway. So I think what we do is take that total number and say it can go to 1.2, 1.5. So I think the better exercise here is to pick a number to help Justin with his exercise, because I'm all about helping the superintendent.
Okay, I'm gonna let Dawn go and
Just a
then.
question regarding the scope of things that are being involved in the phase one or for in future phases of the bathroom renovation project. The boys and girls locker room, bathroom facilities are also deplorable. And in terms of
Yeah.
privacy and location and function.
Yeah.
And the fact that they're so small and so tightly together, So I just wanna make sure that at some point, they're part of that, because it is a bathroom, even though it's not a hallway bathroom. I want somebody to look at that and see if it fits in that project.
Again, good discussion, and like what Mr. Krieger stated, this is just projects to, we got it's a bottom line budget. So we've had to go, these are the 4 projects. Does someone wanna make a motion for the project list?
I just have a question.
Yeah, let's go ahead.
So we are not voting for a total amount of money to approve. Are we just voting on the projects? Is that
The
correct?
amount of money is set by the budget committee.
Okay.
Right, that's gonna go through that process.
But that's not what we're doing.
Nope, what you are looking at is that you are looking at the projects that came out of CIP as the 4 primary areas of focus for whatever is gonna be funded next year.
But that number is based on the projects. So they can't say, well, we think you can do the Belfry for 400,000. That's not gonna happen. The other thing I would ask everyone to consider is the Belfry is a legal obligation.
But I'm just saying, like you were saying that, like if we switch the fencing to guardrails, you're thinking maybe we might be able to save a little bit, but that's not something we have to decide right now.
What I would recommend is
Okay.
pulling a number like 1.2, 1.5, whatever, everyone, 1.25. And then after that number is approved, then we know at any point in time, we can change the scope of this list. And it will change because something's gonna fail around here that we're gonna have to fix. It's gonna come from that line. Potentially.
Someone wanna make a motion to approve the project list?
Motion to approve the project list.
The CIP project list for 26?
Yes, would you like me to say it specifically?
Sure.
Motion to approve the fiscal year 26 CIP recommended projects, including high school bathroom renovation, phase 1, boundary fencing of secondary main campus, Danville schools, roof replacement, and phase 3 of the Atkinson Belfry.
A motion by Alyssa, do I have a second? Second by Dawn.
So I'll make a motion to amend that. And I hate doing that too, because this is your very first motion, I think.
Well, wait, what do you want,
I want to amend it to keep the list whole, but the amount to change.
But we're not voting.
At this point, I would not do that, especially with it's already come out budget committee. Just right now, I wouldn't worry about it.
Okay.
No, I see what you're trying to do, but right now wouldn't be the appropriate. We're just approving the project list.
Not the
Not the amounts.
Not the amounts, yeah.
And it's already been presented to the budget.
I get it.
Yeah, no. All right, motion's been made and seconded. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Opposed and abstained. 2 abstentions. Oh my
God, this is a bad day.
So 5 for, 2 abstentions. All right, cool. Moving on. 25-26 program of studies for the high school.
Welcome, Mr. Pedersen.
Welcome back.
So at the last board meeting, I quickly presented for the first read, the program of studies What you have is the executive summary. Nothing has changed, but I will at this time take a few minutes to just go over some of the things, especially that needs board approval. So we are going to be looking to remove a number of classes from the program of studies, specifically the creating mobile apps. And in your executive summary, there is a brief explanation of like the rationale for doing that. So as I go through these, if you want further explanation, please ask. Removing desktop publishing and presentations, removing emerging technology, removing screenwriting, and then a list of archiving. And this was a practice that we started a couple of years ago where we feel like the class might have some merit, but we just are not planning on running it. But we don't want to completely remove it. We could always bring it back in the future. And then rather than going through the whole process of getting the course approved in the future, it was just we kind of pull it out of archive. So archiving a number of classes. Specifically, I just want to mention that we are looking to archive the Project Lead the Way engineering classes. And when this was mentioned at Curriculum and Assessment Committee, I was tasked with seeing if we could do anything to bring back an engineering class or two. So I worked with Mr. Ugletti and Mr. Morse to specifically write 2 engineering classes to bring to you tonight to sort of take the place of, if you will, Project Lead the Way. And actually, it will save some money because Project Lead the Way is we have to buy their curriculum. We have to send people to go get trained in their methodology, whereas we feel at this point we've been running, those teachers feel like they're experienced enough where we can kind of design our own engineering class. So even though we're archiving those Project Lead the Way engineering classes, we are looking to bring 2 engineering classes to you. There's a number of changes in just, a little bit of verbiage, reorganizing where classes are being housed. We're also looking to change a couple classes to make them more accessible to more kids. So for example, I gotta find it now, information technology course that was an accelerated dual enrollment. Very few kids took it. We're looking to make it more accessible to more kids and hoping that more kids actually take that for their digital literacy credit. So there's a change there. There's, same change with web design, hoping to make that more accessible for more kids. Just some verbiage changes. Like I talked about the engineering classes, so robotics and manufacturing is geared more for the engineering technician level of engineers and getting kids like with those job skills where they can come out of high school and go right into the workforce potentially with some experiences in that. And then engineering principles is maybe a little bit more into the math side of engineering, if you will, rather than the technician side of engineering. We're also looking to add AP psychology, which has some interest for a number of years. And if you notice that we're actually going to archive AP Euro, which has not run just because of low enrollment. So we're kind of making a trade-off, if you will, in the social studies department. And adding chamber orchestra as a course, which is very similar to the way that we do chorus, chamber choir. Thank you.
Concert choir.
It's run at the exact same time as orchestra. It's just that the teachers work with a different group of kids and get those kids some more experiences, and it's more of a specialty group of kids with that. And then every year there's changes with Pinkerton and Salem CTE, and those are out of our hands because those are the changes that they are asked for. So I went through it briefly, but what I'm looking for is a motion for a acceptance of the program of studies. Within that, we would need an approval for to run AP psychology, chamber orchestra, engineering, robotics and manufacturing, and engineering principles as new courses. And the curriculum AP Psych doesn't need the curriculum because AP is it. The engineering, robotics and manufacturing, engineering principles curriculum is in process. I believe in your packets you actually do have some information about it. competencies, the unit titles, things like that, but those curriculum documents are in development. And they'll be coming through curriculum assessment into the board. Same with chamber orchestra, even though, the curriculum is virtually, not virtually, it is the exact same as the orchestra curriculum. So I don't believe we actually need the curriculum docs because it's the exact same curriculum.
Do we need to make the motion separately for each class?
If we were doing program of studies and accepting it as written, it would be inclusive.
It would be
of that. He's
inclusive
just
of.
giving you the detail.
Okay.
So the motion that we have, motion to approve the second read and adoption of the 25-26 TRHS program of studies, would that cover everything you just talked about? Or are you also wanting another motion?
I guess it's really this board. I believe that as long as you said it with all the proposed changes.
Yes.
So that motion would propose.
And- And this has gone through the committee.
Yeah.
Yes.
And, we were encouraging this work, so, it's really quite an achievement. So we appreciate all the work and the care for not losing some of these courses that become archived. Because it saves time and effort later, should we have the opportunities. So thank you.
I'll make a motion.
I second it.
Oh, sorry, Dawn.
She's gonna read it and then you can still say.
I think I'm gonna read it properly. I'll make a motion to approve the second read and adoption of the 2025-2026 program of studies, including
The changes.
Outlined by Mr. Pedersen tonight.
Game goes into a
I love it. How's that?
All right, motion was made by Kim, it was seconded by John. And this is for the high school, the TRHS.
Correct.
Yep.
Correct.
Any other discussion? All those in favor, sorry.
Yeah, of course I had a body.
You're
I
blending
just
in
wanna
up
say
there.
that the engineering courses are so important and they serve one of my two kids very, very well in college, so nice job.
We got two great teachers right in the program, and Mark's support, so we're in good hands there.
Very good.
Motion made and seconded, any other discussion? What do you wanna say now?
We're ready to vote.
All those in
yay.
favor? All those in favor? Opposed and abstained, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, pre-K, or did you wanna say something? Okay, pre-K writing curriculum. Welcome back.
So earlier this fall, you reviewed some updates to the pre-K reading curriculum. We are slowly working through changes to these documents that were written at least 10 years ago. Really looking at changes to research and increasing our pre-K curriculum focus and best practice around play. And so you'll see in front of you some changes to the writing curriculum. This has been through CNA for 2 reads and comes before the board now as a approved recommended document from CNA.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the first, this is the second reading.
This is the first time you've seen writing.
Alright, so.
Oh, first read. I'm sorry, I'm like, I've seen this twice.
So you don't wanna read it again.
The first read of the pre-K writing curriculum.
Motion made by Kim, do I have a second? Second by Alyssa, any other discussion?
Shaving cream?
That's fun to do.
There are no reasons.
Multi-sensory learning on the table or in a tray. It's
The
really
kids have
fun.
that?
It's multi-sensory learning.
Yes.
My son will sit there
And
forever.
it cleans the tables really well.
Sounds good.
It's for motor development, says the OT, trust me.
Alright, well, the OT said it, so it's gotta be true. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Opposed and abstain, alright.
You missed the Play-Doh piece. Thank you.
I know. Pretty good,
Play-Doh
alright.
smell.
Moving on, water service RFP.
Jack eats it.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Our friends at Penachuk are changing their business model and divesting in several water systems around the state. We have gone out to RFP, had 2 vendors submit. You can see the dollar figures in my proposal. I'm gonna jump right down to the rationale. Whitewater was established in 1982 versus the other company is a brand new business. Whitewater employs 95 individuals versus the other business that only employs 2. Whitewater's proposal was comprehensive, including testing materials and other supplies. This was not noted in Aqua or in the other vendors' response. And note the introductory letter provided by Whitewater in their proposal, and I think I did not include that hyperlink. The other piece of Whitewater is that there are the lead that will be working with us, worked for Pennachuck and has a great deal of institutional knowledge of our water systems and the issues that we have and the topography that we're dealing with here. And so we are very confident in selecting Whitewater, and their cost, their annual cost is comparable to Pennachuck, what we have spent on Pennachuck, not the contract we had with Pennachuck, which did not include testing materials and other supplies.
Okay. Any questions? Someone want to make a motion?
Make a motion to approve entering into contract with Whitewater, water and wastewater solutions for district-wide water services.
It's a lot of water. Motion made by Mark, is there a
Cheers.
second?
Cheers.
Second by Dawn. All those in favor? Opposed? And abstained. All right. Next is the 25-26 tuition rates.
And I'm also happy to present that on behalf of Ms. Watkins tonight. There's two separate graphs there to draw your attention to. The first is programming currently in district for in-district families. We do not wish to change any of the rates for preschool, pre-K, half day for K, of course, is free here, and we will still be looking for full day to be at that same price point. I would recommend that we stay there, dependent upon whatever is going to happen with the vote moving forward. The second chart there shows you tuition rates that we're setting for students that live outside of our district. And there's been some nominal increase over the last 3 fiscal years there that is just really staying consistent with the increased cost to educate students. But they help us set kind of a barometer or have a marker for when families outside of our district are looking to come into it, whether be they employees or rather residents of other districts. Having the tuition rates allows our business department to function and to begin to move toward registration. So we're looking for an approval for this rate sheet here tonight.
Kim, go ahead.
If we just approved full day kindergarten, why is that still in?
He just stated because we don't know what's getting ready to happen, so we really have to keep it this way for now. But if it
Still need to read.
Say that again. I'm sorry.
This was-
Say that
I'll let
again.
Justin say it. He says it so much better.
Yes, I hear you.
So this executive summary was prepared for you on December 19th. Board made a decision tonight after the December 19th piece, right? That you are looking to move toward that. It's going to be dependent upon the operating budget passing, because that's where you've elected to put that piece in. If the operating budget doesn't pass, we'd be in the default budget, which full day K is not funded in there right now, right? So in the event that it's for whatever reason, or there's some pushback from the community that the process is flawed and it must go to warrant, we still need to have a rate that we're going to be needing to fall back on if we're not going to be able to get to that point.
So let me ask you the question. If we go to the default budget, it's still a bottom line budget for us to spend any way we want. So even if we go to default, as long
fixed costs.
even though, yeah, I enjoyed that. Even though we're working off the default, our motion was to charge you with finding the money within the existing budget, which would be part of the default, to fund this program. So you understand the complexity of that?
I do. What I'm pointing out is that if for whatever reason under the sun that doesn't happen, and procedurally there may be some challenges to that, we need a tuition rate to continue to offer kindergarten programming.
Leave it in there, leave it in there. That's a challenge
Make a motion to approve the 2025-2026 tuition rates presented in the executive summary dated December 19th, 2024.
Motion made by Shauna. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Dawn. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Opposed and abstained. 6-0-1. Yeah. Let's see. Policies. Shauna, did you want to speak to policy?
Actually, Sandy's gonna speak to
Okay,
this one.
that's fine.
So,
Go for it.
So tonight you just have one policy in your packet for a first read. It is policy JLP. This is a new policy, not just for our district, but statewide, that came about due to a new law that was passed this summer in July by the state legislature. The wording of the policy came directly from the New Hampshire School Board Association's model policy, which was developed really to align to the language in the RSA. The RSA is somewhat confusing in wording, hence the policy language models that. So I want to try to just give you a little bit of background on what this law is and what it speaks to. So firstly, the RSA that is at stake is RSA 186:11, section Roman numeral 9-E. That law amends a current law that exists, and we have a policy already relative to that law, which is policy IGE, which requires districts to provide parents with advance notice anytime there would be instruction relative to potentially controversial materials. Specifically, it's typically used with reference to instruction or curriculum related to gender, sexual health, things of that nature. That is a policy that has long been on our books. We practice it. We give often more than 2 weeks notice to parents, and they have the option to opt their child out of instruction and request an alternative assignment. That is a policy that we already have. The amendment to that law has a new clause that is specific to parental notification of an involvement in student welfare. So I just want to read you the language in the RSA, which generated this policy. So the new clause, the new paragraph to this RSA reads, require school districts to adopt a policy, that would be policy JLP that we are bringing to you, on parental notification of changes in students' mental health and emotional well-being. A school district may not adopt policies, procedures, or student support forms that prohibit school district personnel from notifying a parent about his or her student's mental health, emotional, or physical health or well-being, sexuality, or a change in related services or monitoring, or that encourage or have the effect of encouraging a student to withhold from a parent such information. Before I move on, essentially the policy, the RSA directs us to adopt a policy that says that we cannot have a policy that prohibits staff from notifying or answering parents when asked. Does that make sense?
Say that one more time.
We need to adopt a policy that states that we will not adopt a policy that prohibits staff from notifying parents.
Okay.
It's a double negative
Yes.
that's inherent in the law,
Okay.
which is very confusing with regard to enacting such a law. This has been a conversation at the state level, at state meetings, legal conferences that I've been to. So as you look at the language in the policy, that is where it is coming from. The second aspect to this new law also references a different RSA, which is RSA 169-C:3, which is relative to public safety, welfare, and the Child Protection Act. So the one unique circumstance in which a staff member would be okay to withhold information is if they had just cause to suspect that by disclosing certain information with a parent, it might potentially be putting a child at risk physically, mentally, emotionally, under the Child Protection Act. So in essence, that is the policy that you were looking at. This is a first read. This is stock language that came directly from the New Hampshire School Board Association that in essence mirrors this law that was just passed and is now on the books. It was passed in July. It became effective in September of this year, and it is required by law. So that's it. Yes. Yep. go ahead.
Are there any implications or changes in the policy and enforcement of the policy interpretation when a student changes from a 17-year-old to an 18-year-old major? If we have a 20-year-old student, a 19-year-old student, are the responsibilities the same as if it were a 14-year-old student?
I
It's a great
believe so,
question.
yes.
Yes, my understanding is that
Yes.
there's still a dependent, and there's still a custodial,
And at this stage, the requirement to provide education, even specialized educational services in the state of New Hampshire is at what age now? 21?
Through
extended from
22.
21 to 22.
So in theory, you could have a 22-year-old student, and this applies to them as well.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yep. All right. Jack, and then Don.
So as I listen to the two RSAs, it seems as though the second one is up to interpretation of the student, of the teacher or the administrator, where they use their judgments. And it almost seems as though there would be an opportunity there for a teacher or administrator to circumvent the first one by the second one.
So the standard, there's a legal standard, right? And anytime there's a legal standard, it is open to interpretation in a legal court of law. But the standard is a reasonably prudent person
Key
would
word right
believe.
there, isn't it?
So again, this is the law that our state legislature passed. It is on the books. The policy is required by law, and it almost verbatim mirrors the language of the
It
law.
was more of a question of a potential pitfall in the potential contradiction in what is reasonable. I mean, that's usually a key legal word. I mean, why people end up in court, right?
It's a reasonable education, right? I mean, it's all.
Yeah, it's, yeah.
The other piece
you.
that I failed to share as well is that through policy committee, one thing that we did pay attention to is we went through all policies that are currently on our books. And so if you read this new policy, it states that we may not have a policy that prohibits staff from disclosing information. We currently do not have any such policy on the books. So we are currently in compliance with this law. So, okay.
That was obvious, but thank you for explaining it. Any other questions? Shauna, did
No, so just given the legal requirement to have this policy, I'm actually gonna make a motion for first read and second read and adoption for policy JLP.
It's been a motion. Do I have a second? Second by Don. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? And abstained. 3-4. Warrant articles.
Yay.
Yay. We had our joint budget committee and school board meeting on Monday, which the majority of you were present for. We had our attorney there, Jim O'Shaughnessy, talk about the 2.5% tax cap along with the $25 million lease. Does anybody have any questions about the warrants or anything else implication wise? Justin, do you have anything you want to add?
Just to share a couple pieces, that warrant article 2, we hope to have that number with BudCom on December 26th.
Okay.
Warrant article 4, I think one thing we learned at the joint meeting, this is regarding the lease purchase agreement. There were some petitioners of that article there. And in conversation with the boards, we understand that the intent of that petition is not to be retroactive and to move back and cancel the things that have already been done during the lease. The intent is to look forward and to restrict the district from accessing any future monies to that lease. So that is something that's going to have to play out at deliberative in terms of making that citizen petition reflect the intent of the petitioners.
Mm-hmm.
So there's going to be more to come that way. You'll also see warrant articles number 6 and 8. We expect very soon to have some closure on those CBA agreements, and you'll see some populated numbers in there, most likely the next time you're reviewing this on January 2nd.
Yep, Jack.
So I guess this is the time to bring this up, seeing we're talking about the meeting. I will refrain from commenting on some of the comments made there, other than to say I think this board did a stellar job of, with the surplus, it was suggested that we chased to go run and spend every dime of that surplus. I would basically state that not only did we not do that, but we actually, at the time, were rejecting requests. We were shooting things down. And I think some of the concerns of some of the more challenged communities, their representatives were hell-bent on making sure that every transaction we made it wasn't going to affect the surplus in some way, shape, or form. So I think everyone was very conscientious at the time. I just think that was a terrible misstatement. I was a little bit disappointed because my understanding of that meeting, and historically for the last 12 years, I think the first time we did it was when I last sat on the board with Ms. Sherman, was to have a vigorous and engaging dialogue about the budget. We did not do that. We learned about the warrants, which we kind of already knew, but I thought Jim did a great job of laying it out for everyone, for the residents and everyone alike. And I think the board, I think the budget committee, and I think the community are all on the same page as far as understanding the fiscal challenges of every single household. With that said, I would love an opportunity. I know they're getting together on the 26th. I will make, and I won't speak for the rest of the board, but I'll make myself available up until the 26th, every single day, as long as it takes, to review the lines of that budget. I thought it was an opportunity lost when we walked out the door. I stayed there for the meeting, but I wasn't able to engage or participate. And that is the whole purpose of that joint meeting. I think the more heads we have trying to find solutions to some of our challenges, the better off we all would have been. So I won't belabor that point, but again, disappointing and not why I attended that meeting.
Any other questions, comments, concerns about the warrants? When do we, I always forget this, when do we have to vote on the warrants and everything? Our meeting?
Second week or third week in January. I think we've got 2 opportunities in January for you guys to do that.
Any other questions? Again, this will continue to be a running theme. Hopefully we can start filling in some of these X's really soon. Last thing on current business is our default budget.
All right, I'd be also happy to present that on Ms. Watkins' behalf tonight.
Okay.
Before we get into the actual default budget sheet, I do want to remind you that this is a conversation we previously had here. We brought you the RSA, which governs the default budget. That is 40:13 Roman numeral 9B. And again, we showed you a pretty simple kind of math calculation problem. That's a line of the statute. You start with your fiscal year, in this case, this fiscal year 24 voted budget. You make additions or subtractions that are related to debt service, contracts, or other obligations you have. You can also reduce that budget by one-time expenditures from fiscal year 24. And then you can also further reduce it by eliminated positions from the fiscal 25 budget. And that equals your fiscal year default budget. So that's the equation. If you move to the page that shows you kind of the calculations with some notes there, you can see at the top of that your fiscal 25 budget was 91,800 and bless you, 825,600. I can't even read that number. It's so small.
843.
843. That's your starting point. You can then see the 20 adjustments that were made there. Each one of those adjustments has a note down below that gives you the text to explain that adjustment. But again, those are going to be things that are debt service related, contracts, or other obligations. You're going to see get down to the total adjustments, which was, Mark, can you have better eyes than I do? You see
$952,260
Thank you,
representing
very
1%.
close to $1 million. You are going to then have your capital reserve adjustment for a defined and final default budget of $90,623,583.
Okay.
The second portion of that sheet, again, is the notes of those adjustments. Couple things I wanted to point out there. If you look down to numbers 15, 16, and 17, that are adjustments that we made by taking a much closer look at our actuals from the past and aligning them there. And then as you look at notes 18, 19, and 20, those are us categorizing those one-time expenditures or one-time purchases. And that's in total of about $300,000 of reductions for the default budget.
Okay.
And that is there before you. And again, the statutory allows that default budget could be either less or more than the proposed budget. And in this case, in this year, it is coming out at where we stand now with both budgets, a little bit above the proposed budget.
Do we have to vote on this tonight, or do when's the cutoff to vote on this?
trying to think about what needs to be posted. It's gonna need to go on the warrant, so you guys could probably review it again on the 2nd of January.
So that would be the deadline of.
That it would be pushing it a little late. And again, it's a statutory formula. I don't
I'm just
suspect that
asking
us
the
making a
question in case
change.
somebody
Yes.
here was not comfortable with.
Just continue on, Coach, I think it's good to get it out there. I see value to, having people be able to look at it and understand it.
Agreed. So you make the motion, Don?
I move that we approve the default budget as presented.
I'll second that.
Motion by Dawn and seconded by Jack. Any other discussion on this?
Yep.
Yep, Jack, go.
As Dawn said, this is required, this isn't something we can manipulate. It is what it is. It's black and white. It's a formula that's followed. So the idea of putting this off to January 2nd, which by the way is a very important day in my life, to put it off until January 2nd, I think is just playing with the voters and let's just let them know what the number is. If there's a, if we find out, I don't think there'll be a mistake because it's black and white, but if we find out, can we amend it?
Up until the
On
time
the
that we
second.
have to post it on the warrant.
Up until the second, so
100%.
let's vote on it, I won't tell you what to do. Let's. Yeah, let's vote, and then if something comes up unforeseen, God forbid, we have this, we always have the second.
And again, the only reason why I asked that was because last year there were some issues. And I just want to make sure that people tonight did not feel pressured into voting for it. But again, I'm ready to go. So we've got a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Opposed and abstained. Guys, we made it through all our business. It's awesome. Minister's report, let's go.
This report, I'm gonna ask Dr. Martin to go first. Sandy will follow up some things, and I have one piece of information for you tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Superintendent. Mr. Vaccarezza, myself, and alternate to the CIP committee, Nola Whitman, went to Keene High School last Friday to tour the bathroom renovation there with their business administrator and facilities director. They were very gracious and very informative, and I have a pile of architectural designs and so forth that they shared with us. I also have an entire slideshow of the bathroom project. It was extremely informative, and we'll bring that to the appropriate committee at the appropriate time. Also, in the world of athletics and just great, good feeling, positive things for kids. Kudos to Mark Pasquini for applying for this outdoor journey fund from the Appalachian Mountain Club. He received a grant for 20 to 25 kids for up to $5,000 to have 2 trips to stay overnight for in a whole host of choices of huts in the woods. I will pass. But this is just a great opportunity for kids to do something really authentic and athletic, and I kudos to him for seeking out the funding for this opportunity. Also, right up my alley is just to remind folks, Jazz Allstate is February 6th through the 8th at Pinkerton Academy. The kids will be staying in a hotel in Manchester. I got to find out which one to stay away from there for the 2 nights that they're there. But no, I have for many years supervised in the hotel for Jazz Allstate when I was on the New Hampshire Music Educators Executive Board. They're great kids. Cameron will be there, among others, many other kids. We had 33 students completed 36 auditions. That means some were auditioning on either more than one instrument or instrument and voice. 8 students were selected and 2 students received the top score in the state. Really an amazing feat. Classical All-State, 48 students completed 53 auditions. 22 students were selected. 5 students received top scores in the state. And that Classical All-State is at Bow High School, April 3 through 5. And finally, the Chamber All-State is not an overnight trip, but the students are selected from their All-State scores. to participate in that, and we had 15 students selected. So really, lots to be proud of for our incredibly well-rounded kids. And I got lots more, but that concludes my report.
Sounds great.
Thank you.
I will pick up, I have some other kind of positive things to share with regard to students. So I think we try to highlight, we just highlighted an outdoor education grant that our staff applied for and were fortunate to receive. We also have 3 schools in our district that recently applied for robotics grants through the state of New Hampshire. One of those schools was the middle school. And so just reporting some positive news that our middle school Lego robotics teams, we have 2 teams, Team Tigers and Team Roar, competed in Londonderry at the regional competition back in November. One of those 2 teams, Team Roar, qualified for states and received the award for robot design. They then went on to compete at the state level and finished 15th out of 50 teams around New Hampshire. So we're really proud of their work and their advisors, so congratulations. Similarly, I think we've talked about our partnership at the high school between our science department and Army and DECA Research up in Manchester. So for the past couple of years, those companies have partnered with school districts, Timberlane being one of them, to bring real-world engineering practices around generating bio-manufactured, creating devices that are manufactured to replicate things to treat different medical issues that range from heart problems to diabetes to you name it. So they come in, they meet with our students, they do deep dives into research and develop projects. So connected to those projects, they've also did a career exploration with these 2 organizations. So our students last week in human anatomy and physiology and also an integrated biology class attended this industry expert panel hosted by those 2 organizations and got a chance to really delve into some really unique learning experiences to think about potential career pathways. And then lastly, just want to highlight, you may remember that we created a child find coordinator position last year for our early learning center. Just want to highlight that on Monday, January 13th, we will be conducting screenings connected to Child Find at Sandown Central from 11 to 2. And this will allow us to identify children who may require special education services. And so we are currently engaging in community outreach to make sure that families in our community who may have children who qualify for those services are aware of this screening. We'll continue to advertise that. I believe that that has been out on all of our social media sites. But really just want to make sure that our community is aware of this opportunity to come and have their child screened to determine eligibility for our programming at TLC. Yes.
Have we, and again, sorry if this is a little bit
Yeah.
off topic, have we collectively reached out to, say, the local libraries? Because
Yes.
I know.
Yeah.
Okay, never mind.
Yeah, we connect with libraries, local childcare centers, other family organizations. Yes.
I assume.
Yes. Yeah, but it's a great question. Yeah.
Thank you.
And that's what I have.
Awesome. I typically bring a great many things before you on these evenings. I'm only going to choose to do one tonight because I think it's the most important thing before us. We've touched on some of these pieces, but I want the school board to have an understanding of what I'm going to be bringing to BudCom on the 26th of December. So quick review, we had the joint meeting on Monday, the 16th. With the school board's direction, the district administration presented a budget, and I want to comment that despite the rising costs of goods and services, despite that the district currently has 7 competitive collective bargaining agreements in place with its staff, despite the fact that we have continued to fund capital improvements in our facilities across the district, and despite the fact that we have not impacted any student programming, the district administration presented a budget that was $2.4 million less than the last voted budget, and the first % decrease in a year-to-year change in a budget in over a decade. The Budget Committee had a vote on Monday night looking to take or ask for further reductions of $4 million in excess. That vote failed. They had a second vote and that passed, and they are looking for an additional $2.4 million of reduction ideas. On the 26th of December, I'm going to present a menu of variable pathways for the Budget Committee to consider as a means of voting to reduce the budget by that $2.4 million figure. As I said to Katie earlier and to the board, that's going to primarily be and take the form of 3 different categories. That first category is work our principals and directors are doing with their department or building budgets, and providing some rationale for why we think we're going to be able to do those. I think there are going to be some nominal dollars to come there. The second major category will be adjusted projections. These projections will be in personnel benefits and in 2 additional funds, the grant fund and the food service fund. We're going to attempt to be less conservative and take a little bit more risks with those projections. And the third category will be kind of the doozy. That will be staff, that will be programs, and that will be capital money for facilities that we'll put on the table. I want to be really clear with this board that these are not going to be district recommendations. Instead, this is going to be information for BudCom to consider toward their goal of maintaining their budget goal while allowing the district to continue to meet its most minimal required obligations. I'm happy to entertain any questions or thoughts the board has with regard to that tenor and tone in preparation for the 26th.
Again, we're just gonna reiterate that this is where we could cut, but we're not recommending it. Any questions about
So-
this? Yep, Jacob.
Couple things. One, again, I'll reiterate that the board should be able to have input at that meeting or at a meeting prior to that, because I think everyone here is looking for solutions. Number 2, if you took a look at what we operated on last year, the actual spend versus the increases by percentage, you get the union contracts, increase in probably transportation and food, right? Do those add up? If you take that year's spend, put those increases on it, does it add up to this budget? The proposed, what you proposed as the budget. And the last thing is, I had touched base on it briefly, can we have a discussion around maybe that's up to the budget committee, but these unfilled positions versus contract labor versus bare minimums, and I had made the suggestion, and somewhere in my head I formulated this, that we can invert the process by putting everything into contract labor, leaving those positions open so we could move something from a contract position, if we find the position, and move it back to that teacher and leave those positions open, say for $1, and kind of invert the way like tonight we did the transfer. Wouldn't it be nice just to know exactly what that number is under worst case scenario? And then when we move it back to say a position that we find someone for, then that money goes back into the coffers. I'm just throwing stuff out there so we can have a discussion about it. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but and I want everyone to know that everyone here is trying their best to do all the right stuff.
Absolutely.
Anybody's got any questions, any suggestion for it? Any other questions, comments, concerns?
Katie, will you reach out, you're our liaison, reach out and find out if there's any interest in my suggestion, please.
I will ask, yes.
Thank you.
And to add on to that, if I could, and if we could actually participate, I will show up. If we can participate in the discussion as well. I also was disappointed. This was the joint meeting. I thought it was going to be collaborative. I didn't think we were going to just be spectators in the real meeting. I personally, I'll just speak for myself, nobody else on the board. I was frustrated by the lack of input. It was window dressing. That sounds impolitic. I'll upset people. Oh well.
I've been frustrated this whole budget process going to those meetings.
Okay. So I will attend if my voice can be heard. Otherwise, I'll just watch it on TV.
I will reach out to the chair of BudCom tomorrow, and if I get a response, then I'll.
Yeah, respectfully, we're requesting that.
Yep.
Cool.
I will shoot that email and see what we get. So, 'cause I don't know what I was expecting for the joint meeting either, but it wasn't
Not
that. It was not that.
I mean, I was around when we originated the thing, and it used to be just, we literally had a round table with all the members of both the committee and the board. It was a positive thing. And So
Like I said, I'll ask. Answer's always no unless you ask, but ultimately
just-
the budget committee can say,
Thank
nope,
you.
go
That's all
pound
we can do.
sand and.
Thank you.
So,
thank you.
okay.
I don't have anything else.
All right. Personnel report. We have 2 professional resignations. Shauna.
Make a motion to accept the professional resignation of Erica Chauvin, Special Education Coordinator at Timberlane High School, and Catherine Jackson, Special Education Teacher at Timberlane High School.
Motion to have a second.
Second.
Seconded by Alyssa. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Not really.
Nope. No. Opposed and abstained. All right, everybody did that. All right, committee reports. Jack, start with you.
Nothing.
Done.
No, committee stuff, no.
Okay. Budget committee, we've talked about it quite a bit, so I don't feel like I really need to say any more about it. Mark?
So negotiations, we'll discuss
later.
that later. We've met, I think, 4 times since the last school board meeting, 20+ hours, lots of information.
Okay, Shauna.
Wellness Committee has a meeting coming up in January, and the January Policy Committee meeting is been changed from the first Thursday of the month to Monday, January 6th.
Kim? Nothing for me. Alyssa? Right. Any other business at this time? Yes, Don.
Just other,
Yeah, go ahead.
the other night, last night we had about 30 alumni of the wrestling program
Yeah.
come to watch the Pinkerton match. They also had a tribute to it was like a pink night, for awareness night about cancer and cancer survivors and whatnot. So it was a tremendous emotional night, great wrestling. One of the people that was part of the alumni group was from 1971. And he got a chance to see his grandson win his first match in front of a big crowd.
It's awesome.
And Sean, do you have anything to add to that?
I do want to say this, my dad was the oldest alumni there. He's also a cancer survivor.
Yeah.
So it was a really,
what a
really
night
important
for
night for our family. So I'm really grateful for this organization for a lot of reasons.
Yeah, and congratulations to your son.
Thank you.
Very good. Anything else?
Yeah, I have 2 things. One, I was going through YouTube, and next thing I know, I see Dawn and Barry. They get the microphone on and the speaker. The only guy I know that talks more to the microphone than me is now him. But it's a great broadcast. Go in and watch. Very professional, almost like Howie Cosell.
Last thing.
Last thing, Chris, if you get a chance. When we had some black ice this morning and I drove over here and I realized that although we probably don't sand with the salt, a salt additive or any type of salt in when we de-ice the parking lots, it doesn't mean that it doesn't come in on cars and trucks and everything else. Could we put a reinforced a roll of poly from where the tennis courts, that gate is along, because you don't want any salt getting anywhere near concrete tennis courts, right? And do a little return, 10-foot returns, only 4 feet high.
So if I may, if I could look into, if I would allow me to call the vendor and ask the vendor what they would recommend.
No, that's fine. We need some type of shield there to protect that little stretch of court.
Salt will eat up some concrete. That's
You bet you.
Any other business?
I just thought of it. That's why I brought it up.
Are there any more delegates and individuals?
Nope.
All right. We do have to go into a non-public.
Make a motion to go into non-public under 91-A:3 subparagraph C.
I have a motion to have a second. Second by Kim. Could I please get a roll call vote?
Jack?
Yes.
Yes.
I would have forgotten.
Yes.
Yes.
Sure.
McCormick
Yes.
and Alyssa.
Yes. Thank you, everybody. We will not be back other than to seal the meeting, and Merry Christmas.
Now I need